And welcome along to a very lively, a very noisy St James's Park. We're 15 minutes away from kickoff in our half-5 commentary for you here on 5 Sports Extra between Newcastle United and West Ham. We'll be bringing you full first half commentary of this match here on 5 Sports Extra, with the second half then coming to you on 5 Live Sport. But you can continue to listen to us throughout the duration of this match. Alongside me is the former England and Premier League goalkeeper Paul Robinson. Paul, will come to T News and kind of the form of both these sides heading into this match in a moment, but I mean, it's packed here. Anyone would think that Newcastle United have got to a cup final or something there first in the last 24 years.
It's great. I mean, I always enjoyed playing here, and it's a one club city, and to have a little bit of success that they've not had for a lot of years. To see the amount of fans that are in the stadium now, I'm more worried of me and you at the moment, these 2 flags that are above us that are going to land on our head. But there's a real carnival atmosphere every time Newcastle play. I was up here on New Year's Eve for the Leeds United game. It wasn't a great game, but the support here now, there's a real belief of a success. I like what Eddie Howe's done with the way that he's conservatively spent his money, sensibly spent his money, built on what he had to keep this team in the Premier League. Then he's built on that again. He hasn't just gone out and signed world stars who are at the end of their career looking for a payday. He's signed to build a team. He's signed players that will improve his side, and he's constantly done that. And the lad walking towards us there, coming off the pitch, Kieran Trippier, I think he was the catalyst for everything. I think he was the most important signing that started this revolution, if you like.
Yeah, and just the one defeat in the Premier League so far this season for Newcastle United against Liverpool. They are riding high in the top 4 at the moment, really looking like, well, Champions League qualification next season. They really should be back in Europe if they continue this form. Let's run through the teams then in full. Newcastle making one change from the team that won here against Southampton on Tuesday night to make it to the League Cup final at the end of the month, and that is of course an enforced change because Bruno Guimaraes is suspended after picking up a red in that game. This is the first of 3 matches he will be suspended for Newcastle. So Newcastle lining up with Pope in goal, back 4 of Trippier, Schär, Botman and Byrne. Then Joel Linton moving into midfield to fill that gap left by Guimaraes, with Joe Willock and Longstaff alongside in the goal scorer from Tuesday night, which means that Alan Saint-Maximin returns up front alongside Callum Wilson and Almiron, who's making his 150th appearance for Newcastle tonight. Alan Saint-Maximin, Paul, hasn't started for Newcastle in the league since August, so he's got quite a lot to prove tonight to his manager. He
has, especially with Anthony Gordon coming in late in the transfer window as well. There's competition for places. I mean, there was a time up here that when Saint-Maximin was fit, he played. He was a catalyst to everything that they did, the creativity that they had, and they struggled without him. But the reinvention of Joe Linton, the way that he's been playing, Willock's come into the side, and Almiron, the player that he is this season, all of a sudden when Saint-Maximin is fit, he's not an automatic starter. So this is a big game for him tonight. Anthony Gordon just warming up on the pitch in front of us, named as one of the substitutes, Newcastle's new £40 million man they bought in the January transfer window. He does grace the matchday cover, so I'm sure we will see him at some point tonight here at St James's Park. What about the West Ham team? Well, they made plenty of changes against Derby in the FA Cup on Monday night. So comparing this lineup to their last Premier League game, that was the win over Everton. Again, one enforced change for them, and that comes at the back. Thilo Kehrer coming in place of the injured Kurt Zouma. So running through their starting 11 in full: Fabianski in goal, Kehrer, Ogbonna and Agerd in defence. Then Soufal, Paqueta, Rice and Emerson across the midfield, with Bowen and Benrahma and Antonio up front. Antonio scored, I think, for the first time in 2.5 months in the FA Cup win on Monday, Paul. So, you know, again, for him, a goal coming at the right time, maybe perhaps to build some momentum, both for him and for this West Ham team at a time they really need it. I think for Antonio, it's been a case of a bit of a stop-start season. With Scamacca coming in, he hasn't been a regular starter. He's had an injury-hit season. It's really been a bit stop-start for him. But I think now with Scamacca being injured, Antonio can see the opportunity that he's going to get to start, especially with Danny Ings now coming into the side. We know that Ings wasn't fit enough to start today. He's on the bench, so it gives Antonio a little run of games, and I suspect the goal in midweek will do no end of good for his confidence. But it seems that West Ham have turned a little bit of a corner since the win at Everton, where they won 2-0 at home. Then they went on to beat Derby in the FA Cup in a really professional, workmanlike performance. But then they're going to have to continue that because they've got a really difficult run coming. And then when you look at the results that we've had today, with all the teams around them, they are really sitting precariously close still to that bottom three, with a very, very difficult run to come in the coming weeks.
You're just out of the bottom three on goal difference now, West Ham, because of other results today. So, as we were mentioning with Newcastle, obviously Bruno Guimaraes for them today. This is the first of a 3-match ban as a result of that red card against Southampton. And in the build-up, the Newcastle boss Eddie Howe has spoken about how big a loss he'll be.
We're going to miss him massively. I think he's a huge player. He's done ever so well for us. Whenever you lose one player, you have to readjust. There'll be an opportunity now for the team to regroup and find another way. But certainly the timing of it's really difficult. You know, we had a really intense period of games, and now we don't. And Bruno seems to miss a long period of time away.
The Newcastle substitutes were just dodging the sprinklers ahead of kick-off here as they were just leaving the pitch. So we're preparing for the teams to come out in the next, 8 minutes or so, I imagine, ahead of kick-off in 10 minutes. How big a loss do you think Bruno Guimaraes will be for Newcastle, Paul? Maybe not perhaps necessarily just in this game, but for this run, the next couple of games. Liverpool, one of those games that he's going to be absent for, and obviously, again, this push for them for top 4 football.
Mas, he's going to be a huge miss. They've been without him 3 times this season. They haven't won without him. They've drawn 2 and lost 1. So that shows you, in a very small stat, how key he is. But it's the way that he plays. He anchors that midfield, but he turns defence into attack very quickly, and he's become a very, very much integral part of this Newcastle side. And today will be a big test and see what they do. They've moved Joe Linton further back to play alongside Willock and Longstaff. So it's a change lineup, but without him he will be missed. And as you say, he's not just missed for today, it's the following 2 games. I'm sure Eddie Howe will be absolutely delighted that he's got him back for the Carabao Cup final. But you're looking at the league position and chasing Champions League. There's 3 big games to come before that.
The positives for Newcastle, though, particularly over this season, is that consistency that they've been able to have at the back. That back 4 of Trippier, Cher, Botman and Byrne ahead of Nick Pope have been so defensively impressive. I think it's just 11 goals they've conceded in the league this season. I mean, that has been so impressive, and Nick Pope has been in brilliant form. Nick
Pope's been excellent. For me, he's the most in-form English goalkeeper. I was looking at his stats before this game. He saved 82% of shots of every shot he's had on his goal, which is an outstanding shot. It's the highest in the Premier League. He's got 12 clean sheets already this season. I think that's short of his record, what he got at Burnley, but there's still more to do. Clean sheets, defensive stability, 6 consecutive clean sheets in the Premier League. It's not rocket science. If you don't concede goals, you don't lose games. Newcastle's problem has been going forward in the last 4 games. They've only had 1 goal in 4 games. That's for and against them. They've had 3 0-0s and a 1-0 win away at Fulham, where Isaac scored the goal. So offensively, Eddie Howe will be looking to be stronger and better today.
We talked an awful lot about how this relationship between the players and the fans is reignited and back this season under Eddie Howe, particularly with the club doing so well. If it is a tight and edgy game, how important, and you played here, is the fan support to help Newcastle get over the line in a tricky situation if they are struggling without Bruno Guimaraes today?
The fans play a huge part up here, and over the years it's been difficult because quite often it's been a toxic atmosphere. The managers that they've had in the past haven't always been a fan's favourite, if you like. And when performances haven't gone right after 20 minutes, if they've conceded a goal or if a pass has gone astray, that can have an opposite effect. There's a lot of pressure when you're playing in front of an expectant fan base. But now, everyone in this stadium, you can hear the atmosphere now behind us. We've turned our effects mics down so we can hear ourselves, and it's absolutely incredible. Building up to kick-off, every single one in this stadium is now behind the team, and they're looking forward to better things here.
So West Ham, let's hear from their manager David Moyes, seeking back-to-back league victories for only the 2nd time in this season, as we say, in their bid to climb away from the relegation zone, just outside of it now, ahead of kick-off here in the next 7 minutes on goal difference. And David Moyes was asked if he can put the losses behind him.
I think that we've got a good side. I think we've got a good group of players. We've not shown it as much as we should have done, and we have to do that now. We're getting in. We're not quite at the business end of the season yet, but we're getting closer to it, and we're halfway through now, and we have to try and perform. But thankfully, the last couple of games, I think we've maybe won 3 out of 4 in the last bundle of games, has given us something to talk about. Feel much more positive, a bit more confidence around the team, and it's great to see Jared scoring a few goals, Mickey Antonio back on the score sheet. So that'll do them the world of good.
It must fill you with a bit more confidence going there, having won your last 2, having kept a couple of clean sheets?
It does, and winning is always the key. You know, I would like my performances to improve, bits of the performances, but when I came the first couple of years ago, you know, what was important was how we get out of the problem we were in, and we had to do that first and foremost. Then we started looking at how we could play better, how we look. Now at the moment we have to make sure we pick up the wins and we get the results, and thankfully the last couple of games we've done a little bit of both. Good signs of our performances and bits getting better, good signs of keeping doing right things, keeping clean sheets, really important. Good signs that Jared Bowen and Mickey Antonio are getting goals now, so we're beginning to get goals from the areas where we thought we weren't. So hopefully it is moving in the right direction.
I can't tell you what the atmosphere is like here at St James's Park. 5 minutes till kick-off. We're waiting for the players to come out onto the pitch. They're just lined up in the tunnel. Everywhere you look, on all 4 sides of this stadium, there are black and white flags being waved by the Toon Army, by the Geordie fans. The Gallowgate end to our right, absolutely filled with black and white jerseys and black and white flags. There's a Brazilian flag there as well. Obviously Joe Linton and Bruno Guimaraes, who's not playing today, 2 huge Brazilian players for Newcastle this season, and the home support here is absolutely fantastic. Newcastle well back as one of the big teams in the top 4 of the Premier League at the moment. But just talking about momentum for West Ham, Paul, you know, we mentioned it, back-to-back wins for them. What kind of momentum do you think that might be able to give them? Because this is going to be such a tough atmosphere for them tonight.
It's going to be a very tough atmosphere for them. It's always a tough place to come as an away team, but West Ham is vitally important now, and it's been made even more so by the results today. The bottom of the table has just got very, very close and very congested. West Ham have turned a corner after a great home win against Everton. They put in a professional performance, like I said, at Derby, and you could see what it meant to David Moyes to keep momentum going, like you quite rightly say, by his team selection. They went there with a very strong side, put in a performance, got their win, and they were looking to come and get something today because their games to come. They're at home to Chelsea, they're away to Tottenham, and they're at home to Nottingham Forest, and then they visit Manchester United. So if they don't pick anything up today, on the horizon, the games that they've got to come, it's a tough outlook for them.
Players are just lining up on the pitch ahead of kick-off. Declan Rice, the West Ham captain, applauding the West Ham fans high up in the stand, in the Leazes stand to our left. The West Ham travelling support really quite impressive, and obviously a long journey for them to make it all the way up from East London here. West Ham's record away from home in the Premier League this season, Paul, really poor, failing to win any of their last 8 Premier League away games. I mean, this is going to be a really tough ask for them, particularly, as you say, with perhaps an important player in Kurt Zouma unavailable for them tonight.
You make a really good point, Maz. Their away form is the worst in the league. They've got 5 points away from home all season, and that's a joint low with Bournemouth and Leeds, and that was really relegation form. Everybody goes on about how home form is so important to stay in the league when you're in a relegation battle, but you have to pick points up on the road. They've lost 16 of their last 24 away matches, so it is something that's an Achilles heel for David Moyes' team.
And players now just preparing, going through their last pre-match routines ahead of kick-off here. All the pre-match routines now just finished, and the Newcastle players just taking on water on the touchline as Jason Tindo, Eddie Howe's assistant, just goes through some last bits of preparation with them. It looks like Newcastle are going to be defending the Gallowgate end in this first half as Joe Linton goes through his pre-match routine on the pitch. It's funny to think now, Paul, that Joe Linton a couple of seasons ago was a player really not loved at all by the Newcastle fans, but now those kind of famous Hawaiian shirts with Joe Linton's face all over them, it's kind of a staple of a Newcastle fan now coming to watch him here.
Well, Eddie Howe's taken a lot of plaudits for what he's done up here and the way that he's purchased players and melded them together as a team. But I think what you can also give him a lot of plaudits for is the way that he's improved players. And Joe Linton been the obvious one, as well as Almiron as well. Botman's come in and done an outstanding job. But Eddie Howe's, the way he's coached the players, the way he's made players better. Callum Wilson, even, I think he's improved his stewardship. But Joe Linton has come on, I mean, he's unrecognisable from the player that he was. He was playing as a striker, he was playing off the wide. Eddie Howe's dropped him deeper, he's played him as a midfield player, and he's been one of Newcastle's best performers. And he's gone from should he be playing, why is he here, the Newcastle fans getting on his back, to almost been irreplaceable and one of the first names on the team sheet.
Newcastle players just in a little huddle just together ahead of kick-off, and they have indeed swapped ends. So after the toss of the coin toss there, that it looks like West Ham are now going to be defending the Gallowgate end in this first half, and Newcastle are going to be shooting towards it as they now do. Just come together in a huddle just in the centre circle on the left-hand side of the pitch there. And we mentioned there Nick Pope joining into that huddle there. I mean, that defence is so hard to break down for teams who are scoring goals, Paul, and West Ham are not a team who are really scoring very many at the moment.
No, it's going to be, I mean, if you were looking to predict this game, you'd say it was going to be 0-0 because neither team are scoring pretty much at the moment. But it's an interesting tactic what West Ham have done there. They've turned round. For people who don't know and haven't been to St James's Park, there is a real slope on this ground, and it's very, very difficult as an away team when you get stuck in that Gallowgate end in the second half and Newcastle are piling on the pressure. If you look at the halfway line, you look at the advertising boards, and then you go down to the corner, you can see there is a real slope on it, and you don't actually realise you're on pitch level. And for whatever reason over the years, Newcastle have never corrected that. And it's a tactic as an away team we always used to try and do, was to spin them round in the first half.
I never knew that. There we go. We are underway in this first half then. Here on 5 Sports Extra, Newcastle United against West Ham. The 5:30 kickoff today in the Premier League, and Newcastle is shooting from left to right as we watch. So towards the Gallowgate end in this first half, as Joe Willock there going forward on the right looks to have just picked up a slight knock and is just limping slightly. So it is going to be a throw-in for Newcastle on this near side touchline. Trippier takes it short to Almiron, making his 150th appearance for Newcastle today. He tries to get it in a tight angle with Byland and does so to Willock. Ball and in! What a start for Newcastle United. Joe Willock with a fine finish and a tight angle on the right. Pinpoint precision. Brilliant start for Newcastle. Seconds in, Newcastle 1, West Ham 0.
Well, Maz, it was so easy, and it looked for all the world that the ball had gone out behind the byline. The VAR are going to check that. It was so easy from a Newcastle point of view. Simple throw-in works between Willock and Kieran Trippier through Emerson's legs, and it looked like the ball had gone out. Ball got cut back towards Joe Willock, and he strikes it across Fabianski into the far side. We're looking now, we're getting the VAR replay. Do you know what? That's very close.
Yeah. Almiron there as he gets the cross in. We said it was a very tight angle just on the byline as he tried to get the ball into the 6-yard box.
Oh, it looks out, doesn't it?
It is out. So this goal is going to be disallowed.
Yeah, it looks out.
That is and it is indeed, we think, going to be ruled out, this goal, but still real early warning signs there for West Ham. If this goal is ruled out, I mean, a let-off for them, really.
It was worrying how easy it was from a West Ham point of view that the throw-in was taken by Kieran Trippier in the corner. The ball was worked through to Almiron, through Emerson's legs, and it was cut back, and they had all the space in the world to get the strike on goal. The goal has been ruled out. Very unfortunate from a Newcastle point of view, but even from here, Maz, I think even we saw that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did call it. Happy to say we did think it was a very, very tight call on the byline as Almiron tried to get the ball in, but real early warning sign there for West Ham, and perhaps a let off for them, but Newcastle not letting up at all. And now it's the ball through the middle for Callum Wilson, and that one will count. Callum Wilson with a fine finish, the ball straight down the middle, he fires it into the back of the net. Seconds after having a goal ruled out, Newcastle are ahead, and this one will count. Newcastle 1, West Ham 0.
They've scored 2 goals in 30 seconds, and again so easy from a Newcastle point of view. One straight ball from Longstaff, wins the ball in the centre of the midfield. Callum Wilson finds space between the 2 West Ham centre halves. He's one-on-one with the goalkeeper from 25 yards out. Does an absolutely fantastic job. Very cool finish. West Ham, from the goal kick that the goal was disallowed, Antonio loses possession. Newcastle win it back in the centre of the pitch. Longstaff breaks up possession, slots the ball through to Wilson, who looks onside. Left foot strokes it round Fabianski.
What a start for Newcastle. But for West Ham, I mean, Declan Rice was just standing there in the centre of the West Ham half with his hands on his hips. He's now gesturing to his teammates to calm down. But the play there from West Ham just really looking like players low on confidence. You know, Antonio with his pass, as you say, and just giving the ball away so easily. It's
amazing. They looked like they were just in shock from the goal. I mean, it was from the goal kick. The ball was ruled to be out of play for Almiron's cutback for the disallowed goal. Fabianski kicked it upfield. Antonio couldn't hold it up. Joe Linton and Longstaff broke up possession, one pass through to Callum Wilson, and within 20 seconds of the goal being disallowed, they've gone 1-0 up Newcastle.
What a start for Newcastle. Not even 4 minutes in, and they've had the ball in the back of the net twice. They lead West Ham 1-0, and this is precisely the start that David Moyes will not have wanted for his West Ham team.
No, somebody just needs to get hold of the ball for West Ham and just calm things down. They're all over the place at the moment. They've had no possession whatsoever. I mean, the game's only just kicked off. We're less than 5 minutes in.
Antonio now on a foray forward down the left. He's trying to get it into the area, loses out though. Good work there from Byrne to dispossess him, and Newcastle pick up possession again with Almiron just on this left hand touchline as he feeds the ball in to Trippier and then receives it again, but it has gone out for a throw in on this near side touchline. And a pause for us all to take a breath, Paul, because it's been a frantic start for Newcastle.
It's been a brilliant start. I mean, who said it could be 0-0? What a fantastic start from a Newcastle point of view. They're attacking their favourite end, going down the slope. They look sharp, they look switched on. We saw Everton in a similar way play against Arsenal today, snapping into tackles, and Newcastle have just done that immediately from the off. They've got one goal disallowed, scored straight after it. West Ham just needs somebody on the field, somebody like Declan Rice, just to get on the ball, have a bit of controlled possession and take this thing out of this Newcastle team the way that they've started.
That's the voice of Paul Robinson, former Premier League and England goalkeeper, alongside me here at St James's Park, here on 5 Sports Extra and BBC Sounds, as Bowen now has the ball a couple of yards outside the byline, trying to feed in Ben Rama on the left hand side. He's going to try and get the cross in, but he's trapped by Trippier there, who gets a challenge in and wins the ball. You can hear there that the Newcastle fans thought that ball was out of play, had gone over the byline. Indeed it has, and it will be a goal kick for Newcastle.
Worrying start for West Ham. Body language of a few of the players as well there. Ben Rama kicked the ball away in anger when the decision was given against him. Fantastic start from Newcastle. Very well organised, high press. They've clearly got their triggers, and it's up to West Ham to take the sting out of this Newcastle side. A
reminder, Newcastle, as we say, shooting towards the Gallagher end in this first half. Had the ball in the back of the net twice. First goal for Joe Willett ruled out. Second one for Callum Wilson definitely counts. So they lead 1-0 here in the early stages as they seek to solidify their place in the top 4 of the table. West Ham inching ever closer, it seems, to the relegation zone at the moment. But they have the ball at the moment on the far side with Soufal. He's making run forward, switches play now to the left, or tried to for Ben Rama, but too close though to Pope, and that is easily taken by the Newcastle keeper. So Newcastle in their familiar black and white strip, the black shorts, black socks, shooting towards the Gallagher end. West Ham in their familiar claret and blue kit as well, but really struggling to find some momentum and work their way into this game in the early stages. Haven't even really had a chance to remind you of the headlines really in terms of team news. Just the one change for Newcastle, enforced of course after Bruno Guimaraes was sent off in the League Cup win, as Almiron there was pressing and hassling Fabianski, who was able to get the kick away, but Newcastle pick up play in their own half. Guimaraes replaced by Joe Linton, who's moved into a more central midfield role, and Alan Saint-Maximin has started his first game in the Premier League since August, but actually probably the one Newcastle player I haven't really noticed do an awful lot with the ball yet, Paul.
I think that's his first touch, Maz. I really do. He's over on the far side there. The play's always been sent in the midfield and over this side, but I think that's an area that West Ham will look to exploit. Newcastle play the 3 in midfield, Willett, Longstaff and Joe Linton, whereas West Ham will play a 4 with Koufal and Emerson pushed on into that midfield, and that's an area that with Bowen dropping in and Ben Rama dropping in, West Ham will look to dominate that area.
And a reminder, West Ham as well, just one enforced change for them as well. Kara coming in at the back in place of Zuma, who is injured, and they really do need to try and work their way back into this game now, West Ham. Declan Rice is on the ball, or West Ham outfield players now in Newcastle's half, but not able to find a way forward. We haven't mentioned as well that Anthony Gordon is of course on the bench, the new £40 million man for Newcastle. His face adorns the match day programme today, so I'm sure we'll see him on the field at some point. Antonio winning a physical battle there with the Newcastle defence, gets the crossing from the right. That was Bowen trying to run in to get on the end of that in the 6-yard box. It just missed him. West Ham retain possession, but the ball will be picked up again by Newcastle, who go on the attack. Alan Saint-Maximin down the left hand side for them. He feeds the ball forward for Callum Wilson, who's in a foot race there with Kera, and Wilson has the ball as Trippier makes the run on the right. Arm raised, he wants the ball switched direction, but Ogbonna regains possession for West Ham, and West Ham are going to have to be so concentrated. But you can already see that Newcastle are so up for this one.
That straight ball again, really effective for Newcastle with Callum Wilson's pace over the top in the foot race with Kera there. Quite easily wins it, and David Moyes will be concerned about that because it's one pass again that split the defence. That's how Wilson got his goal. Simply there, Newcastle were deep in their own half defending. St Maximin broke, immediately played that ball over the top to Callum Wilson, which is looking to be an area that they're trying to exploit, and he had the beating of this West Ham back four.
We've not even played 10 minutes yet. It's been a breathless start for Newcastle. Brilliant start for them. Longstaff winning the ball for them in the centre circle, and he's obviously had a brilliant couple of days. 2 goals against Southampton in the League Cup on Tuesday for the local boy to see this Newcastle side into a cup final for the first time in 24 years. Reminder, match of the day is on BBC One tonight at 10:30. You can see that really cool finish from Callum Wilson tonight with Gary Lineker in the team, and also that disallowed goal for Miguel Almiron. But something tells me, Paul, that it's not the last goal we're going to see here this evening. No,
it's a goal that will give us a good game because West Ham can't stick to the game plan. I suspect, knowing David Moyes and the way that he sets his team up, and quite often when you come away from home, your game plan is keep it tight for 20 minutes, let's not concede and stay in the game. And that's gone out the window within 3 or 4 minutes today for this West Ham team. St
Maximin feeding Willock in edge of the D. Now it's back with Trippier about 25 yards or so out. He's decides to send it out to the right to Almiron, who's been so bright in the early stages here. 11 minutes gone on 5 Sports Extra and BBC Sounds. If you're out and about, take us with you. Maybe you're coming back from a 3 o'clock kickoff, or indeed the rugby as well. Opening weekend of the Six Nations. West Ham are able to regain possession in their own half, but Antonio looking rusty in the early stages, losing possession again. He's not had a good opening 10 minutes or so, Mikel Antonio.
They're very deep, West Ham, as well. When they're out of possession, it's amazing how deep they are. They're very, very aware of Callum Wilson's pace, the reason he got the goal and the ball that in behind just then, and that's put West Ham in a really deep position. They're looking for Antonio on the out ball to hold it up, and he hasn't done that for them. Newcastle having really comfortable possession.
Willock with a really sweetly fizzed cross that Bonner had to be very concentrated to head away, but Newcastle still with possession just outside the 18-yard box. Longstaff urged to shoot by the fans, doesn't, sends it to Willock in the D, and Trippier now will pick this up on the right and will attempt to feed the ball into Almiron. He makes a cute run into the box, tries a little lob, but that is gratefully received by Fabianski. But he's looking really bright in the early stages down that right, Almiron.
He's got his pace to do that, and on his left foot cuts inside, causing a problem. And like I just touched on there, this West Ham defence are getting deeper and deeper. They've been scared by Callum Wilson's pace on 2 occasions already, and you can see that's what Newcastle are looking to do. So the gap between Antonio and his back 3 is huge already, the gap in midfield.
What have you made of Joe Linton in the early stages? He was saying that was potentially a weak point for Newcastle. Obviously no Guimaraes for them this evening, but the kind of plan B, if you like, from Eddie Howe seems to be working so far pretty well for them. As Antonio does have the ball now in the D, shot blocked, back to Rice, sends it out to the right. West Ham finding numbers on that right hand side, tries the cross into the box, headed clear by Trippier. Now it's with Willock in his own area. Byrne, the tall figure on the far side, gets it forward. That's St Maximin picking up on the far side. Bright orange boots. It's the Frenchman, as we say, starting the game in the Premier League for Newcastle for the first time since August, so big night potentially ahead for him.
Yeah, the midfield area that you touched on, I think that will be something that David Moyes will have spoken to his team about before the game.
As Antonio there was battling down Byrne, as a long ball over the top from West Ham, but the Newcastle defender really concentrated to clear the danger.
Because without Guimaraes in there, Longstaff, Willock and Joe Linton will sit as a 3, and then when you're out of possession you're looking for St Maximin and Almiron to come in and do the defensive side of things, whereas West Ham will play with a 4 across the midfield in Kufal, Rice, Paqueta and Emerson, with Bowen and Benrahma dropping in, so they will have more manpower in midfield, if you like, more players in midfield, and then they'll look to dominate that area, and it's an opportunity for them to get some decent possession because they haven't had that yet. But you look now, they're out of possession, they're very easily drop into a back 5, and even from a goal kick they're sitting very, very deep. 14 minutes gone here at St James's Park. Newcastle still on top with that 1-goal lead, really making a statement in the top 4 of the division of the Premier League at the moment. Goal kick is taken by Pope, and now it's sent forward by
Newcastle. That was for Sir Maximin on the far side, and West Ham though pick up possession with Bonner, and he sends it forward to Benrahma. But all of this play inside West Ham's area as Agard is fouled there, and that will be a free kick for West Ham, a couple of yards inside the Newcastle half.
He's good, Almer, and he's good at tracking back. That's one side of his game that he has improved on with Eddie Howe in charge. We all know how good he is going forward, the threat that he creates, but actually tracking back there and helping out his defender in front of Kieran Trippier, that's a part of his game that he has got better at.
Bonner back with Fabianski after West Ham take the throw in just inside their own half, and Antonio, one of those players going up in the centre circle to try and win back possession. Rare loose ball there from Cher, and now it's Emerson with the ball at his feet, making a run forward for West Ham. Shouts of handball there as it deflected off a Newcastle player at the edge of the 18-yard box. Trippier waves claims away with his hand as he tries to feed in Joe Willock, who is out-muscled from the ball by Emerson and Bowen, and West Ham are going to try and build again from the back. Didn't really look like a handball opportunity, that.
He's done well there, Emerson. He's been quite direct when he's got the ball on this left-hand side. He's got a bit of space, gets in behind Almer, and he runs at the defence, and he's very, very direct. Runs at Kieran Trippier. Trippier just puts the tackle in, and as Trippier tackles him, it flicks up off his right boot and hits his arm. No real call for handball, but I think if that led to a goal in the penalty box, we might be having a different conversation.
Soufal on the far side, running forward. He's going to try the crossing again. That's targeting Antonio. Shot comes out to edge of the D, blocked. That was Paqueta, and the Newcastle player has gone down. I think that's Cher, or is that Botman who's gone down? Really felt that one, and we could hear that connect.
That's
with the Newcastle
flush.
player there.
Really
Paqueta really took that shot on so well at the edge of the D. That really hit him with some force.
Well, thankfully he's sat up. I mean, the ball's cleared and it comes out to the edge of the box, and Paqueta couldn't have hit it any sweeter, and it hits him absolutely flush in the face, and he sat up pretty quickly. The medics are on looking after him now. It would seem that he's okay. We hope he is, but it was an impact from very, very close range from Paqueta, and Paqueta seemed to pick it up on the half volley. He couldn't have hit it any sweeter. That was the epitome of putting your body on the line.
Jamal Lascelles warming up on the touchline. This obviously reminds us, and certainly you can watch the highlights of this game later, as we say on Match of the Day, but very similar to that Alexander Isak moment on Tuesday here against Southampton, when he connected again the ball with his head when he was trying to close down that James Ward-Prowse free kick, and again similar distance and similar power in this shot today here from Paqueta.
Oh, Paqueta couldn't have hit that any better, and the fact that we've got the monitor in front of us and we're not seeing TV replays as yet is not good, but he's up on his feet, which is fantastic news. It was an extremely courageous block from him, took it really flush in the face, did Botman, and it was a very, very good block for his team, but thankfully the medical checks are done and he seems okay. Yeah,
concussion protocols of course hugely still in the news at the moment, particularly with Alexander Isak, of course, picking up concussion on Tuesday after that incident involving the James Ward-Prowse free kick. But good to see Botman's on his feet. He has gone off after receiving treatment on the far side, but hopefully will be back on the field in the next couple of minutes. 17 minutes gone here on 5 Sports Extra and BBC Sounds. Newcastle with the early, just a few minutes in, great finish from Callum Wilson. West Ham really with very little going forward yet, and we talked about Mikel Antonio in the build-up and how he'd be hoping to build on the momentum of scoring for the first time in 2.5 months against Derby in the FA Cup on Monday, but you can see that he is low on confidence at the moment.
He's had a couple of touches where the ball's come back off him. He's cutting a lonely figure up there at the moment, because as I touched on before, West Ham are very, very deep when out of possession. When they do win possession, they hit it direct to Antonio, and Antonio's got Botman and Shah right in behind him, and they're making easy work of it at the moment. He's cutting a bit of a lonely figure. He needs support from behind him. Bowen and Benrahma are doing that job in midfield, but they've also got to be conscious of joining Antonio when they're in possession like they are now.
Rice on the ball, feeds it out now to Benrahma on the left. He gets the cross into the box. It's cleared though again by Cher, and Newcastle try to regain possession, and they do. Now it's with Longstaff in his own half, but feeds it out again on this right to Almiron. Paraguay international so energetic in the early stages here, and now it's more centrally for Newcastle with Longstaff again, this time out to the left with Byrne. Alan Saint-Maximin now with the ball at his feet as he tries to feed down the left-hand touchline and tries a little bit something there too elaborate, and West Ham are able to regain possession. Danny Ings, as we mentioned, the new signing for West Ham, one of only 2 signings actually they made in this window, it is on the the bench for them today. I mean, at some point you imagine, whether he's fully fit or not, Paul, that David Moyes, if it continues the way it is for West Ham going forward, will want to try and get him on at some point sooner rather than later.
Yeah, well, they've got options on the bench now, West Ham. I mean, you look at the bench, they've got Fornals, they've got Lanzini, Souček can come off the bench. We know he's not having a great season, but he can be a threat from set plays if they need him later on in the game. But Danny Ings, yeah, David Moyes obviously signed him for a reason. Very disappointing that he got injured very early on, just after he signed, but now he's seemingly fit enough to take his place on the bench and he'll be used as an impact substitute. But I mean, it depends how this game goes for David Moyes. If Newcastle continue in the vein that they are, and if they go 2 or 3-0 up, it may be a pointless exercise putting Danny Ings on at a certain time. But now for West Ham, they seem to have rode out the storm. They seem to have ridden the storm, David Moyes would be pleased with the way that his players have reacted after a really frantic 5 minutes, and if they can stay in this game, the longer this game goes and they stay in the game, they give themselves an opportunity.
Already today, plenty of shocks in the Premier League. Everton with their first win in quite some time, their first win under their new manager Sean Dyche in his first game in charge, beating the league leaders Arsenal 1-0. Villa 2, Leicester 4, Brentford 3-0 win over Southampton, Brighton with a late goal to beat Bournemouth 1-0, and Manchester United 2-1 winners over Crystal Palace, with Casemiro sent off in the latter stages of that as the cross came in there from the left from Newcastle, is headed clear and hacked clear by West Ham, picked up by Trippier on this right hand side, and now it's with Longstaff. Almiron making that run again down the right, but they send it back into the centre circle, West Ham, and another result to bring you up to speed with as well. Wolves 3-0 winners over Liverpool. I mean, that was a big shock, that, and that win for Everton as well. 2 huge results at the bottom of the table, Paul.
Well, the 2 results that this West Ham team will have seen come into this game today, which will have put them into a different perspective, because they certainly wouldn't have expected Wolves to beat Liverpool in the fashion they did, and Everton to beat Arsenal as well was probably one that not many people expected. But they were fantastic today, Everton. I saw the first half of that game before leaving home, and it was the epitome of a Sean Dyche team, the way that they turned up today. That wasn't just a narrow 1-0, it was a very well deserved 1-0 win that could have been more, in all honesty.
And remarkable, really, when you consider Sean Dyche hasn't had long at all to work with those players, and the turnaround pretty remarkable, really, in such a short space of time. Yeah, they're putting a real performance for him. I mean, the minimum requirement is maximum effort, whatever team you play for, but that hasn't been apparent at Goodison Park, and it certainly was in abundance today. West Ham with the ball on the far side. Antonio winning a throw-in for his team midway through the Newcastle half. It's blocked by Joe Linton. Will be another Newcastle throw-in on the far side, which they take quickly into the box. Antonio was trying to run onto it. It's headed clear by Byrne, and Joe Linton wins back possession for Newcastle as he tries to get his team forward now. Down the right with Trippier, who slips in the turf and goes down, and that is judged to be a foul by Emerson, who shakes his hands. And what did you make of that? I mean, Trippier did seem to slip, but then Emerson gets a second bite of the cherry almost. At first glance it was right in front of us, and it looked like Trippier made a little bit the most. It was a tiny touch from Emerson, but he's gone to do a little crow turn like we see Trippier do. His studs hit the ground and he slips, and Emerson just nicks the ball off him, but at the same time catches him. Trippier makes a meal out of it. David Moyes right underneath us. He clearly wasn't happy, didn't think it was a foul. Midway through this first half, Newcastle leading 1-0 thanks to that early strike from Callum Wilson. Joe Willock also with the ball in the back of the net. That one ruled out in the opening seconds. But West Ham have worked their way back into this game a little bit more, and they have calmed things down. David Moyes will be pleased with how they've managed to weather the storm somewhat. The first 5 minutes was very frantic. Newcastle took the game to West Ham. West Ham couldn't get hold of the ball, and as you say quite rightly, they seem to have ridden the storm. We said that they need to get hold of the ball, have a bit of controlled possession, and they've done that. And barring the 2 opportunities on goal that Newcastle have had, the one goal that was disallowed for the ball being out of play and their goal, Fabianski hasn't had that much to do, and you can see that West Ham have settled down a little bit, come into this game and had a couple of opportunities of their own. So Newcastle leading here at St James's Park, here on 5 Sports Extra and BBC Sounds. A reminder, you can listen to the Calcutta Cup on 5 Live Sport. That's happening right now at Twickenham. Earlier as well, Wales beaten at home by Ireland 34-10 in Warren Gatland's first match back in charge of the Welsh. And reminder as well, plenty of football to bring you as well on Premier League Sunday. Nottingham Forest against Leeds at 2, and then Tottenham against Manchester City at 4:30. I know you're going to that game, Paul, but both of those games hugely important tomorrow for different reasons.
Well, the Tottenham-Manchester City game has just taken on another level, hasn't it? After Arsenal getting beaten today, if City win that game, the title race is down to 2 points, and it's thrown wide open again. There's been questions asked of Arsenal all season, and they've answered them, and today was the first.
As Newcastle, there was a free kick taken by Trippier, couple of yards inside the West Ham half on the left, and then it was headed just to the edge of the 6-yard box by Dan Burn, and Cher trying to get on the end of it there, just a shot wide of the left-hand post. But again, very much a set-piece opportunity, that which almost came off for them in the very early stages with that Joe Willock chance as well.
The trajectory of the free kick was excellent from Kieran Trippier. Difficult one for a goalkeeper to come to, very flat, slow rising. Dan Burn got a real good flick, and Shaw ended up one-on-one with Fabianski, and he just got there in front of the goalkeeper, got a toe end on it, and it just went wide of the far post. Another warning sign for West Ham, still trailing here by 0-0, still not really offered a huge amount going forward. There is going to be a free kick though for West Ham, just in front of the Newcastle technical area. Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall will be very happy with what they've seen, as Emerson is just on the halfway line, going to take this to the feet of Jared Bowen. He's trying to feed in Ben Rama on the left-hand side, but Newcastle win it, and it's back with Newcastle in the West Ham half, although now West Ham regain possession, but then lose out again. I mean, this is sloppy stuff at times from West Ham at the moment. Almiron, Willock, now with Longstaff. Out on the left it goes with Joe Linton. So Maximan's making the run. Dan Burn as well. He's fed in, tries to get the ball to Joe Linton at the edge of the D, but picked up by West Ham, and now it's with Bowen, and warning signs all over the park really for West Ham still at the moment. They do look dangerous every time they get the ball to Newcastle, and it's the fact that West Ham are dropping so deep and allowing them controlled possession. West Ham struggle at times, it's a bit scrappy in midfield, lose possession. As soon as Newcastle get ball, they try to turn defence into attack very quickly. They've got the pace of Callum Wilson, they've got the pace of Almiron, they've got the pace of St Maximin on the flanks, and they know that. So it's obviously something that they've worked on in training. With West Ham playing a back three, they know there's going to be space down the side of the outside centre-backs for the pace that they have.
So Fabianski's going to take a free kick for West Ham, just 35 yards or so out, so most of the West Ham players just loitering in and around the centre circle. He takes this long over the top. I think that's going to be targeting Antonio, who jumps up for it half-heartedly really, and Newcastle able to get it clear, and it's with Dan Burn again on the left as he tries to get it forward for Newcastle. Joe Linton again now in the centre circle. Trippier and making this overlapping run on the right with Almiron. West Ham players all back now in their own half. The relationship between Almiron and Trippier has been really impressive as well in the early stages. They're really looking like a team and a well-oiled machine down this right-hand side for Newcastle.
It's the communication from Trippier. He knows what he wants from the player playing in front of him. I'm not sure Almiron is the disciplined midfielder who will track back, but having that coach of a player, if you like, in Kieran Trippier on the field has helped Almiron with his defensive side of his game. But Newcastle do look dangerous every time they get the ball. West Ham look vulnerable. They don't look comfortable. They're playing with a back three, but as soon as they lose possession, it's a back five, and then the midfield's on top of this five. Every time that West Ham look vulnerable is when they lose the ball.
Newcastle have the ball again in the West Ham half. Almiron, another player, and we mentioned it ahead of kickoff, not one that really hit the ground running here at Newcastle when he first joined. So much hype when he did join from the MLS, but again Eddie Howe really showing that he's been able to develop these players, as Antonio now and Declan Rice tried to feed the ball into Ben Rama, shot from the edge of the D, looped up though over the bar, and that probably by some distance West Ham's best chance so far in this match.
He should do better, Ben Rama. He's got the ball on his favoured right foot, comes to him about 14 yards out. He's got the goal in front of him, nobody really closing him down. He has an opportunity to shoot. Great interchanging play by Declan Rice. The ball goes into Antonio, lays it off to Declan Rice, who runs across the box with it, lays it into Ben Rama's path, coming in off this left-hand side on his right foot. He's got an opportunity to have a strike on goal, and he should do a lot better. Should at least test Nick Pope.
He should get it on target, certainly, so it will be a goal kick for Newcastle. Coming up to 29 minutes played here now at St James's Park. Newcastle coming out the blocks so quickly with that early goal from Callum Wilson and looking full of confidence. And it is a packed St James's Park here as well. We talk about the special atmosphere at games here this season. Special atmosphere here on Tuesday night for that League Cup win. It's going to be a special atmosphere at Wembley at the end of this month as well, as West Ham with Soufal with the ball on the far side. He tries to feed in Antonio. He goes down under a challenge from Botman, I think that was, and it will be a free kick for West Ham just inside the Newcastle half.
Yeah, it's better from Antonio there. Just dropped a little bit deeper, got good possession, held the ball up, brought Declan Rice in just as he did earlier on there with a chance for Ben Rama. A couple of opportunities there where Antonio's got to hold the ball up, and he's done a really good job of it.
Football, as we touched on, so much of it over the coming days as West Ham tried to take the free kick quickly, and perhaps too quickly, but a loose ball there for Joe Linton, and Emerson pounces on it as West Ham try to work their way back into this game. Now it's Ben Rama on the left. He's going to try and get the cross in at a tight angle, goes down under challenge from Trippier. Referee says no free kick.
He's got to book him then. If he's not going to free kick, he's got to book him. That was a blatant dive. He's gone past Kieran Trippier, and in Ben Rama, he's been guilty of this quite often in his career. Looking at it again on the replay, Trippier gives him the tiniest of touches and he dives over Trippier. If the referee's not going to give a free kick there, he has to book him.
Well, it will be a goal kick for Newcastle. No bookings as of yet, but Ben Rama, well, going down very easily, let's say, in that coming together with Kieran Trippier. So much football, as we say, over the coming days on 5 Live. Reminder, FA Cup replays Tuesday and Wednesday as well on 5 Live Sport. Sheffield United against Wrexham replay on Tuesday night for the chance to play Tottenham in the 5th round. Declan Rice on a mazy run forward, trying to lead from the front. Declan Rice. Emerson now, corner of the 18-yard box, sends it more centrally. Shot is blocked from the edge of the D by Byrne. Comes out again and just wide of the left-hand post. That chance from Paqueta, and that probably as close as West Ham have come.
A lot better from West Ham, a lot better. A couple of chances in decent areas, bit scrappy in the box, balls bobbling around. Jarrod Bowen gets a couple of deflections, comes out to Paqueta, swings his right foot at it, not his favourite foot, gets a deflection and goes out for a corner. West Ham coming back into this game.
Set piece might be the best opportunity for West Ham to get back into this game. It's going to be a corner then from the left, which is going to be taken by Declan Rice, who's just standing over the ball now and lining it up on the corner there. Referee just making sure it's placed correctly. Corner comes in from the left and is in, and the equaliser from Paqueta. The ball was not picked up as the cross came in, as the corner came in from the left for West Ham. Paqueta with a simple finish, and out of nowhere, West Ham are right back in this game. Newcastle won, West Ham won.
Well, they looked like they were creeping back in this game, West Ham. Give them a lot of credit. They went 1-0 down very, very early on. Got some control possession. That's just a simple corner kick in by Declan Rice. Whipped in at a low height. I'm almost thinking it's not going to clear the first man. Comes in at just about head height. Goes all the way across the Newcastle 6-yard box. I think it's Ogbonna in the middle who causes a bit of trouble there. Takes the eye of the Newcastle defenders, ends up with Paqueta at the far post, who has the simplest task on his favoured left foot. He's fighting with Kieran Trippier at the back post, just comes off the post, touch with his knee, drops down, slots it past Nick Pope. Really scrappy goal, but West Ham have probably deserved it, you know, coming back into it.
They all count, and as you say, Ogbonna there coming across, almost kind of unsighting Nick Pope as well. He didn't realise until very late on that Paqueta was coming in.
Certainly wasn't pretty, was it?
No. Effective though, and we said that a set piece opportunity might be the best chance for West Ham to get back in this game, as Ben Rama's now got possession as well, and this could be another dangerous moment for Newcastle. Suddenly this defence, which has looked so strong all season, all out of sorts at the back there. Cher trying to take far too long. Ben Rama closing him down, almost feeding the ball in to a teammate in the Newcastle area, and suddenly out of nowhere that Newcastle defence has been a real strength for them this season, but it looks all out of sorts as Newcastle now down the other end, but lose out to possession to West Ham as Joe Linton then picks up the ball, and Almiron now on this left again with Trippier. He tries to feed in the Paraguay international in the area, and it will go out for a throw-in on this near side touchline.
Well, two teams with some belief now. Newcastle defensively, we talked about them before the game. What an excellent run that they've been on, the run of clean sheets, the run without conceding, and then that's probably one of the scrappiest goals that they'll concede all season.
Joe Willock now, after the throw-in was taken by Trippier on this near side touchline. Now Byrne trying to feed in Saint-Maximin, who maybe showed a little bit too much of the ball there to Soufal, but it will be a throw-in for Newcastle on the far side after the ball went out of play. Byrne takes it quickly to Joe Linton, edge of the area. Now it's more centrally with Willock, who show and go really, not even looking, sends it through to the right with Trippier, and it's blocked off a West Ham player. Will be another throw-in for Newcastle, which is going to take quickly on this near side touchline and to his teammate Willock.
It's frantic, isn't it? It's almost as though we're in the last 5 minutes of a game that both teams are desperate to win. Neither seem to get any controlled possession for any length of time. It's been a real end-to-end game, and it's gone in spells. Newcastle have had the better of the start. West Ham have come into it and had the better of the last 10 minutes. But nobody really has any possession. It's like they're both trying to go all out to win this game before half-time.
That's Paul Robinson with us here on 5 Sports Extra and BBC Sounds. 10 minutes plus stoppage time to go to half-time here at St James's Park, and West Ham really finding a goal when it really was needed for them from Paqueta. An equaliser, simple finish from him from a corner from the left from Declan Rice after Callum Wilson had put Newcastle ahead in the very early stages, and Rice is on the ball again now, and this is a different West Ham side now. Bowen and Paqueta, the goal scorer, on the right. West Ham playing with a bit more freedom now that they've managed to work themselves back into this game. Emerson now on the left. Gerd sends it forward now over the top. That's picked up by Byrne and headed clear again, but Newcastle not able to get that consistency, and Saint-Maximin on the far side, as he loses out possession, is struggling to get into this game somewhat.
He's been a very bit part player in the first half. Most of Newcastle's dominance has come down his right hand side, where they're in possession now with Trippier and Almiron once again. Almiron
on the tight angle on the right, doesn't send it to Trippier, instead with Willock more centrally. Now it is out with Kieran Trippier on the right. Newcastle players all in West Ham's half. West Ham all back defending, but make it quite congested, so limiting options for Newcastle going forward at the moment.
The pace of Callum Wilson has forced this West Ham defence back out of possession. We've said it so often, but that's once again created a problem for Newcastle, because they're having controlled possession in front of a back five with a back four in front of it, and if they're not moving the ball quickly enough, they're just having controlled possession without going anywhere. West Ham is slowly stepping up the pitch, putting the pressure on, and they've won the ball back up on the halfway line with Declan Rice. Declan
Rice really leading from the front here. One possession back again. Now it's with Ben Rama. He's made the run forward. He's at the edge of the D. He tries to get the shot away, just again a couple of yards wide of the left-hand post. I think Nick Pope had it covered, but he took the shot on.
He does so well, does Ben Rama. He comes in off this left-hand side onto his right foot, gets inside Trippier, cuts inside Botman, opens the goal up. The goal's gaping for him. All he has to do is hit the target, and he tries to reverse it, and he snatches his shot wide of Nick Pope's near post. But again, positive signs from West Ham, all by Declan Rice winning possession in the middle of midfield.
Declan Rice has been absolutely brilliant for West Ham. He's almost kind of dragged them kicking and screaming back into this game, isn't he?
Well, you could see him vocally when they went 1-0 down and the goal was disallowed, and then they conceded again immediately. He almost had a team talk with his players, and you could see him saying, look, calm down, that's happened, we need to regroup, we need to go again, and he's led by example as well.
38 minutes gone, 1-1 here at St James's Park. Dan Byrne getting forward again. Now it's Saint-Maximin on the left, but he's surrounded by two West Ham players, including the West Ham goalscorer Paqueta. Goes down in a heap. West Ham win possession, and the referee says no free kick, but the wasted ball forward there that was targeting Jarrod Bowen is picked up by Newcastle, and they'll try and build again with Joe Linton in the centre of the park.
Yeah, Saint-Maximin once again running down dead ends. He's got the ball, and he's flattered to deceive so far in this game. Saint-Maximin hasn't really got an opportunity to get into the game.
Now it's with Longstaff on the right, feeds the ball into the box. Too close though to Fabianski, who gratefully gathers that ball. Maybe he's allowed to take stuff like that on based on the goals he scored on Tuesday night, but Longstaff certainly looking like a player full of confidence at the moment. We're just taking you through some of the games to come on 5 Live Sport in the next couple of days. Mentioned that FA Cup replay live on 5 Live Sport on Tuesday night. Sheffield United against Wrexham. Great match first time round, so I'm sure it'll be brilliant the replay as well for the chance to play Tottenham, and then, as Ian Dennis mentioned earlier on 5 Live, Sunderland against Fulham on Wednesday, as well as West Ham and Soufal tried to feed the ball in from the right, headed clear by Newcastle. West Ham though still with possession in the Newcastle half, much brighter from them. Antonio's running onto it from the right, shot at a tight angle straight at Pope, but West Ham looking much more confident going forward in the last 10 minutes or so.
Paqueta's impressed me today. A side to his game that I didn't realise that he had, the tough tackling, playing alongside Declan Rice. He's not afraid to put his foot in, and he's the one that's the key to the press, the trigger. Him and Declan Rice have bossed that midfield. We've talked about West Ham having more bodies in the midfield, and with him and Declan Rice, that's where the possession's been broken up.
At the moment, this is if it stays as it is, and there's obviously a long way to go at the moment as Callum Wilson's on the ball but way back in his own half, which is a reflection, I think, of how West Ham have wrestled back some momentum in this game. But Almiron's trying to run to get on the edge of a long ball over the top, goes down, and West Ham managed to nullify that attack. But with a point here at St James's Park, and it will be a valuable point for West Ham against a team in really good form, that would move them one clear rather of the bottom 3. That's how tight it is at the bottom at the moment for teams like West Ham scrapping for relegation. And Newcastle would remain 2 points, well, would move to within 2 points behind Manchester United, who of course beat Crystal Palace at Old Trafford earlier.
I've seen West Ham a couple of times in recent weeks. I saw them in the 2-2 draw at Leeds, and Leeds are obviously one of the relegation rivals at the moment, and the way that they played there, the way the performance that David Moyes got out of his team, they didn't look like a team that were going to be relegation threatened. The home win against Everton again, they looked good. They didn't look like they were a team that relegation threatened. You worry about a team when you're down there and they look devoid of ideas. They look like they're not putting in a performance. But of recent weeks, West Ham's performances have certainly improved. Results are on the upward curve, maybe not where he'd want them, but performances certainly have been better.
So Maximan with the ball on the left hand side of the pitch, tried to feed the ball into the D, cleared by West Ham, back to the centre circle, and Newcastle will go again with Joe Linton. 41 minutes played here at St James's Park. Former England and Premier League goalkeeper Paul Robinson watching this alongside me. This has been a really cracking first half. I've really enjoyed it. It's
been fantastic. It's been both teams that have been looking to try and get the win. I mean, you think about the goals that both sides have scored. Neither goalkeeper's really made a save, but we're sat here saying what a fantastic game it is. It's been really well fought. There's two teams that have got clear game plans and that are looking to try and exploit the other's weaknesses. As Ben Rama tried to feed in Mikel Antonio there, one of the technical team for West Ham, clapped his hands in frustration in front of us here as he saw what pass was trying to be made there from his team. Didn't quite pay off though, and now it's Longstaff in the 18-yard box on this right-hand side. Now it's with Trippier. He's thought about getting the cross in, but instead tries to work it back to Longstaff, who certainly looks like a player full of confidence at the moment. It will be knocked out of play for a throw-in, which Newcastle are going to take very quickly on this near side touchline, 19 yards or so out from the byline. Trippier with the ball in his hands at the moment. Throws it to Almiron, moves more centrally, sends it out then on the left to Dan Burn, who's really getting forward an awful lot in this game now. So Maximan as well on that left hand side is battling for the ball with Paqueta, who's really put a shift in on that left hand side there. Cross then comes in from Dan Burn, but is gathered by Fabianski. I've really been impressed by how good Dan Burn has looked getting forward. He's done very well there, and St Maximin, to his credit, did excellently well, because Dan Burn came into his space and St Maximin was forced the wrong way. Kehrer and Koufal were sending him the wrong way. He managed to turn, and actually it worked very well, because Dan Burn had already done the overlap. So with St Maximin going the wrong way, turned, he was able to play Dan Burn in. But Dan Burn has defensive qualities, we all know, but he has brought that into his game since he's been playing at left back all season. For such a big man, he is very quick as well. Are we going to say the old one is good with his feet as well? Ogbonna has... He's a great dancer though, isn't he? Declan Rice now sending the ball out on the right for West Ham. It's with Bowen, and can they get a valuable
goal just before half-time to give them a valuable lead here, West Ham, in the final few minutes of this first half. We've got a minute and a half plus stoppage time to play. David Moyes is absolutely incensed by something he's just seen on the far side there. He threw his hands in the air and has stalked back to his dugout in disgust.
I think it was just the final ball, just the lack of quality, because he knows that that's the area with Soufal and Emerson in the wide areas. They're getting in behind Willock and Joe Linton, and that's the area that West Ham have really been causing Newcastle problems, and they're in again.
And it's Bowen again on the ball on that right hand side. Really effective, that Newcastle for West Ham, and he tried to get the cross in from the right. It's cleared by Newcastle, but then they lose out on possession, as you can hear the frustration from the fans, and in his eagerness to win the ball back, Willock gives away a foul, brings down Paqueta, and this is going to be a free kick in a decent position for West Ham at the end of this first half, Paul Robinson.
Yeah, once again, good by West Ham. Lost possession, but they're snapping at the heels, they're snapping at Newcastle's heels, they're not allowing them to get easy ball possession, they're not allowing to get out. I think it was Kehrer that time, puts the ball into Paqueta, who's running centrally at the Newcastle back four, gets his team a free kick, and it's a really difficult position for a goalkeeper. It's almost too far to score from, but it tempts the striker into having a shot, and almost as a goalkeeper you don't want him to have a shot because you don't want it dipping in front. It's a really horrible one. Quite often strikers can't get in the mind of a goalkeeper. If they only knew how unsure you were from this type of distance with a ball that landed in front of you or could potentially take a deflection. It's halfway in the half, but nearer to the 18-yard box. It's well within range for somebody like Bowen or Paqueta.
Yeah, it's kind of not quite 30 yards, but over 25, and pretty central, slightly out to the right as West Ham attacking this first half. Koufal's going to take it. He was aiming for, I think that was a Bonner or a Gerd in the 6-yard area, and it goes wide, but that was fizzed in at a difficult height for Nick Pope to try and read that one.
Gerd should have done better. He's got the run on his man. It looked for all the world that Paqueta was lining up for a shot, but then Soufal just nips in, takes the free kick, lifts it into the far post, and Gerd finds himself in acres of space, not challenged, not marked, and he heads it over Nick Pope's bar. At least he hits the target. He knows they were looking at his face on the replay. He should have at least hit the target. That's a real chance for West Ham just before this half-time. David Moyes, if it stays like this now, we've got 2 minutes of injury time, he'll be delighted with the way that his team's handled the early setback.
Yeah, how they've worked their way back into this game. So we are into that 2 minutes of stoppage time at the end of this first half, as Paul says. Probably got about 70 seconds or so to play here at St James's Park. The ball's got a bit... Play's got a bit scrappy now at the end of this first half, and I think actually half-time will come at a better time for Newcastle rather than West Ham, Paul, and that's quite a funny thing to say really when we think about how well they started this game.
Absolutely, yeah. Newcastle had definitely the better of the first 10 minutes, but since that it's almost as though West Ham needed that to wake them up. They've grown into this game and they've arguably been the better side. Looking at the stats, it's almost 50-50 in possession, attempts on goal. Fabianski's not had a lot to do other than in the first 10 minutes. Yes, Newcastle have looked dangerous and threatening with the balls over the top with the pace that they've got, but it's actually West Ham who have had the better clear-cut chances of the two sides.
Yes, in the opening seconds Newcastle thought they were ahead. Joe Willock effort disallowed, ball shown to be out of play as Almiron tried to get the cross in at a tight angle. It had gone over the byline, the ball, so that effort ruled out. But then Newcastle ahead just, well, a minute or so later. Callum Wilson, direct effort down the middle, Wilson firing Newcastle into the lead, but West Ham really have worked their way back into this game, and Paqueta drawing them level. But this is a free kick opportunity for Newcastle, perhaps the last play of this first half. It's, 40 yards or so out, a tight angle on the left.
Look how many bodies they've committed forward. Every single player on the field, apart from Nick Pope, is within 25 yards of the West Ham goal.
No surprises who's standing over this ball. Trippier takes it, fires it in. It doesn't beat the first man, and that is indeed the end of this first half. And, well, a really, really entertaining 45 minutes so far here at St James's Park, Paul Robinson.
Been a great first half. Not how David Moyes would have wanted to start. Brilliant start by Newcastle. Had the goal disallowed, immediately got the ball back and went at the other end and scored. Went 1-0 up. And then West Ham have grown into this game. You've got to give them a lot of credit. I think on the balance and play, possession-wise, it's been very, very fair, very even. On the possession and opportunities and to on goal, you would say that West Ham have had the better of it.
Do you think that the absence then of Bruno Guimaraes is something that we saw Newcastle having as West Ham worked their way more back into that first half. I mean, to begin with, obviously going ahead and the frantic start that they made, it didn't look like they missed him, but it seems like they've now are missing his kind of stabilising presence in the centre of that park.
It's something that West Ham have clearly worked on. They're trying to exploit with Soufal and Emerson in the areas behind Joe Linton and Willock. They're not natural defenders, and they're leaving a little bit of space, and those wide areas are where West Ham are having the majority of their joy.
Yeah, really, really entertaining first 45 minutes here at St James's Park, as we say. Joe Willock's early effort disallowed, then Callum Wilson making it 1-0 to Newcastle, but Paqueta with a really well worked finish from a set piece for West Ham, drawing them level, and it is 1-1 at the break, which at the moment would move West Ham a point clear of the bottom three, would move Newcastle 2 points to within Manchester United in third place at the top of the Premier League. But it is half-time here at St James's Park. Mark Chapman is going to bring you all the reaction to today's games so far, but first Guy Mowbray is with Mikel Arteta.
Mikel, tell us your verdict, your assessment of the performance today.
Well, a huge disappointment, obviously. We knew that was going to be a real test for us with the circumstances of the new manager, the style of play, the way the crowd reacted. And we had a lot of control in periods in the game, but we struggled to control the basic things that you have to do really well against a team that is so direct, so dominant on set pieces and defends the box really, really well. So we needed to do more today to deserve to win the game.
What's disappointed you the most? Is it, as you say, the attention to detail at the back, or is it perhaps not creating enough today?
Well, obviously conceding the goal the way we did it after training it a lot, it is disappointing, but as well is their strength, and obviously the opponent plays as well. But it's more down to us, especially how we played in many areas, especially in the final third, that we should have created with the open situation that we had much more than what we've done today.
You know these players well. How do they respond to setbacks? You haven't had many in recent times.
I don't know, but the way I respond is to tell them that I love them more than before the game and before last week and last month, because they deserve it, because it's easy to be next to him when they are winning and smiling and performing. Now we have to be next to them when they have a defeat, and they tried really hard to get a different outcome, and today it wasn't possible.
Here's Sean Dyche.
Clean sheet, 1-0. I like them 1-0s. Every manager does. They pretend they don't. They do. Trust me. No, look, a lot of work done this week. Been very pleased with the players. Their honesty has been invaluable to us as a staff to get the start point, if you like, and the base to work from. I must mention a few of them felt they'd let down the last manager and staff, so I admired that honesty. So we built on the back of that and said, well, we can correct that, but we've got to do it together. And I was pleased with that side of the game today. You know, quality-wise, we can build that, but there had to be a base to work from, that to be a feel of a group and a commitment to the cause, and I thought there was plenty of that today.
Some big wins for teams towards the bottom. Everton were one, Wolves were another. John Bennett.
Yes, a 3-0 victory for Wolverhampton Wanderers against Liverpool. Julian Lopetegui here in the tunnel just behind me, telling the press how pleased he was, not only with his players but also the atmosphere at Molineux, which was superb today. Liverpool, though, was so poor defensively. Their awful 2023 continues, and Jurgen Klopp blamed a dreadful first 12 minutes. Joel Matip scored an own goal, then Craig Dawson fired in on his debut. Brilliant finish. So 2-0 down after 12 minutes, and Liverpool didn't really respond well enough until the opening stages of the second half, but they couldn't break through. Excellent defending from Wolverhampton Wanderers, and Ruben Neves made it 3 after a brilliant counter-attacking move led by Adama Traore. So it's 3 Premier League away defeats in a row now for Liverpool, and for Wolves, they're out of the bottom 3, and it's 2 home Premier League wins in a row for them, and Molineux was bouncing today.
They are. I'll give you the table shortly. Here's Jurgen Klopp with Jonathan Pearce.
You've had great days and you've had horrible moments, but have you had a horrible opening 15 minutes like that before?
Probably not. Conceding early goals is not completely unfamiliar to us, we know, but the way we conceded them today, that was absolutely, it's not acceptable, to be 100% honest. Happened anyway, and obviously when you see the whole game, put out the goals, and you think, okay, Liverpool played a in moments an outstanding away game without scoring. In a lot of moments a good away game without scoring. But the first 2 goals we conceded, the third one I don't count because was the first time they passed the halfway line, I think, in the second half, and they scored there. That's fine. But the other 2 goals, going into a game with all the things I said before the games, with all the things we said during the week, with all the things we did during the week, and then this is the start, is really horrible.
Is that concentration?
Look, so you saw one player in our team was full of confidence, Stefan. So he's on the ball, blah, 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 and then the rest trying to get it back, and then you do yourself not a favor in these moments. We give easy balls away, but the 2 goals we were passive.
It needs to be changed very, very quickly, doesn't it? Everton, Newcastle, Real Madrid.
Oh yeah. We would have changed it yesterday already. That's true, 100%. I have no words really for it. Sorry.
Match of the day, 10:30 tonight on BBC One. Arsenal have 50 from 20. Manchester City 45 from 20. Manchester United 42 from 21. Newcastle 39 from 20. Tottenham 36 from 21. Brighton, after they won today, 34 from 20. Brentford won as well, 33 from 21. Fulham 32 from 22. Chelsea 30 from 21. Liverpool now 10th, 29 from 20. Villa beaten at home by Leicester, 28 from 21. Palace 24 from 21. Leicester 21 from 21. Nottingham Forest have 21 from 20. Wolves now 20 from 21. Leeds have 18 from 19. Everton 18 from 21. Bournemouth 17 from 21. West Ham 15 from 21. And Southampton 15 from 21 after their 3-0 defeat at Brentford. Here's Nathan Jones with John Southall.
Really disappointed, really. For the biggest thing for me is, as I've said in previous interviews, I look at the game today and I don't see me in that team. I don't see me in it in terms of if you've watched my teams play, they're aggressive, they're front-footed, they go after teams, they're a bit of nastiness about them. We defend the box well, we put balls in, we try to score goals. I didn't see much of that today, but that's my fault. That's my fault because I've compromised. I've tried to give them solutions because they're Premier League players and there's some internationals in there that like to play, and you've got to do this. That's not my team. That's not my team out there, and that's the frustrating thing, and it's entirely my fault.
Why have you compromised? Because surely you've got to come here with your ideas and you've got to stick to your ideas, haven't you? But
look, we've had to compromise first of all for personnel, first and foremost, but then we've also given them solutions and they've asked for certain things, and we've done that and we've given them that, but it's been to my detriment, if I'm honest. So look, we'll go back to basics. We'll go back to what I know, to what I want to be, and then we go from there.
In the Championship, Norwich 0, Burnley 3, Rotherham 0, Sheffield United 0, Huddersfield and QPR ended 1-1, Hull beat Cardiff 1-0, Luton did the same to Stoke, Middlesbrough 3, Blackpool 0, Millwall 1, Sunderland 1, Preston 1, Bristol City 2, Reading and Watford drew 2-2, and Birmingham came from behind to beat Swansea 4-3. Let's go to Old Trafford. Casemiro sent off as Manchester United beat Crystal Palace 2-1. Eric Ten Hag is with Gary Flintoff.
Eric, got rather feisty towards the end, but how much character did your side show to win that game?
I see this is a good team and they stick together and they stand for each other, and you see that in the outcome of this game, and you see that in the total process, and of course in the result.
In terms of the sending off, which clearly did make a difference, what did you make of that sending off, but also on a wider theme, the implementation of VAR in a decision like that?
Clear. Casemiro is crossing the line. We have all seen that. No one can deny that. But I think when you see that incident, there are going many more players crossing the line. Also players from Crystal Palace, and they started and taking the risk of a bad injury. So I'm unhappy with the refereeing. It was so inconsistent, and not only in this game, in the game in Palace, there was definitely a big red card on Mateta, who's the elbow on Martinez. They don't interfere. Last week, Eriksen, bad injury, out for 3 months, and no interfering. And today they interfere. So that is something is difficult to accept. But
I suppose another plus point today, Marcus Rashford, another goal, but in terms of the quality of the goal and the finish, and obviously you'd moved him into that central position, what does that make you feel like as a coach at that point when something works in that way?
It's great, but it's more about the team, and we're doing together with my coaching staff, and so we're bringing variations. We do it already in the lineup, in the start 11, to bringing variations to be dynamic. But of course, with that sub, you want to create a difference in the game where opponents bringing them in trouble. And I think we did it because they are focused on a way of defending. And then you get with Garnacho and with Rashford in the center, you get a total different dynamic. And I think we took benefit from it. And it was a great team goal for me because the movement, the passes between the lines, the combinations, and then finally great cross from Luke Shaw and the finishing was great to see.
Sheffield Wednesday beat Plymouth in the battle of the top two in League One. So they both have 61 points. Sheffield Wednesday have played a game fewer, though. Ipswich drew at Cambridge there in third. Derby beat Morecambe there in fourth. Bolton managed to get a late win over Cheltenham and they're in fifth. Barnsley complete the playoff picture. They are in sixth after a 1-1 draw at Portsmouth. The bottom four in League One: Forest Green Rovers, Accrington Stanley, Cambridge and Morecambe. As far as League Two is concerned, the leaders Leyton Orient got a win. They beat AFC Wimbledon 1-0. So they are top. They have a 4-point lead over Stevenage, who could only manage a draw at Sutton.
Thank you very much to Mark Chapman and the team that's running us up to date with everything that's happened so far in the Premier League and in the Football League so far this Saturday. Hello from St James's Park with Maz Faruqi here on 5 Sports Extra. It's half-time in the 5:30 Premier League kick-off between Newcastle and West Ham. It's 1-1 after Callum Wilson put Newcastle ahead in the early stages. Paqueta, though, equalising half an hour or so into the game for West Ham. Paul Robinson alongside me. As we say, Paul, if this game stays as it is, it means that Newcastle obviously consolidate their place in the top 4. They move 4 points clear of Tottenham in 5th, ahead of Tottenham's game against Manchester City on Sunday, and it would move West Ham 1 point clear of the bottom 3. But given how other results have gone so far at the bottom today, that would be a really valuable point for West Ham.
Yeah, I think it would be, and especially, like you quite rightly say, is the results that have happened today. I think there'll be a few coupon busters out there today, and the bottom 3 is getting tighter and tighter. And only in the Premier League do you get a team like Everton who haven't won for so long, and Arsenal such a fantastic run. Everton go and beat them, and then Wolves go and beat Liverpool. This is why it's the best league in the world. And then you're looking at West Ham, and I said earlier about the performances that West Ham have had in recent weeks. There's shoots of recovery, but the league table doesn't lie. They're still down there, and they really are in a relegation fight at the moment. And spoke earlier on about the run that they've got to come. They've got Chelsea at home, they're away at Tottenham, then they're at home to Forest, which you suspect is another relegation rival, and then they've got to go to Man United and Brighton, who at the moment are in great form as well. So it doesn't get any easier for any of the teams down there. So they've put themselves in a great position today after going 1-0 down very, very early on. David Moyes will be delighted the way that his team have handled the second part of the first half, the way that they've got back into this game, and he'll be looking for more of the same in the second half from them.
Anthony Gordon, one of the Newcastle substitutes, just warming up on the pitch at half-time in front of us here. Jamal Lascelles as well, Newcastle's club captain, with a ball as well, just going through some warm-ups, some routines. Interesting to see what changes Eddie Howe might make in the second half, and indeed what changes David Moyes might choose to make in the second half. Just running through then some of the other results today in the Premier League for you, and we'll discuss some of these more. That win for Wolves is absolutely massive, and Liverpool's season, again, it goes from inconsistency to inconsistency, Paul.
Well, the pressure's got to mount on Jurgen Klopp at some point, surely, hasn't it? Yes, we can all highlight the amount of injuries that his team have had this season, but you look at his squad compared to other squads around the Premier League, you look at the players that are still at his disposal that are underperforming. To concede the amount of goals that they have and lose the games that they have, and I think it's the performance as much as the actual results. Underachieving performance-wise, but also not performing and not being in games. For a Liverpool team to get beat 3-0 at Wolves is almost unthinkable. We know that Lopetegui's gone in there and he's done an excellent job. But you think about Wolves and Everton, and you think of the bottom 3. How are the Wolves and Everton fans feeling tonight? Because they've all of a sudden got a new lease of life.
And And it looks like as the players return to the pitch, as you can probably tell because the sound system is pumping out tunes again here at St James's Park, we can barely hear ourselves speak. It looks like West Ham are making a change at the start of the second half. Ben Johnson is coming on for Kerrer at the back, so a defensive change that for West Ham. Looks like he's going to switch to the right perhaps of a back three for West Ham. We'll have a look and see when play resumes, but a change for David Moyes at half-time. You imagine that's probably an enforced one because West Ham did seem to be playing pretty well heading into half-time. I don't imagine David Moyes would have wanted to change things up too much.
Yes, I immediately thought Johnson was coming on for Koufal then, but obviously clearly he's not. It's an injury to Kerrer, and Johnson's just slotted in alongside Ogbonna and Aguerd in that back three as a clearly line up now for the second half.
And we are underway in this second half, so we'll run you through the teams again as West Ham have made a change in this second half, just a couple of seconds in now, and they are going to be shooting towards the Gallowgate end in the second half, so to our right. Newcastle shooting to our left as we watch here, so towards the West Ham away section as well, up high in the stands to our left. So Newcastle in their familiar kit with the black and white stripes, the black shorts and the black socks, as Callum Wilson tries to chase down a ball and Fabianski gets it clear. So Newcastle making the one change today, as we touched on. No Bruno Guimaraes for them. They are certainly seeming to miss the Brazilian in the centre of midfield. They've got Pope in goal, and that back four of Trippier, Schär, Botman and Byrne, with Joe Willett, Longstaff and Joel Linton as the midfield, and then Wilson, Almiron and Saint-Maximin back in the starting 11 for Newcastle today. His first start in the Premier League since August, as Trippier sends a long ball over the top to the edge of the West Ham 18-yard box. It's headed clear but then back, and Wilson trying to get on the end of that, and a couple of yards out in the early stages it's hacked clear by West Ham.
Really interesting tactic that from Newcastle. Free kick just inside their own half. They piled a load of bodies forward, put the centre halves forward. If that was another manager, the likes of Sean Dyche and Sam Allardyce, you'd be described as a long ball merchant and you're playing a long ball. Whereas Eddie Howe's innovative and it's a set play.
And Byrne takes the throw in on this near side touchline. It's with Botman and now with Schär, and Newcastle on the halfway line. Byrne still in a pretty forward position, loses out on possession to Bowen, and Joe Linton forces the ball out for a throw in on this near side touchline, which Koufal is going to take. So as we mentioned, West Ham making one substitution at half time, so they line up now in their familiar claret and blue kit as well, with the blue shorts and blue socks with the claret stripe. Fabianski in goal, then Kerrer, who has now been replaced by Ben Johnson in the second half, Ogbonna and Aguerd in defence, as Bowen appears to be limping and it might have picked up an injury. What seemed to happen there, Paul Robinson?
He just got a knock, he just released possession, and I think it was Joe Linton who just caught him, and he's had a couple of minutes there where he really isn't comfortable. He's trying to get back running on it now, but David Moyes is trying to communicate with him. He's not comfortable at all or moving well, Jarrod Bowen, at the moment. That's
a worry for West Ham. Bowen with 3 goals in his last 2 games for West Ham really seemed to find some form, and he has now gone down on his haunches. This certainly looks like this could be a blow for West Ham, and potentially he might have to come off here. He certainly does not look comfortable. I'll just continue running you through the lineup here for West Ham. They've got a free kick about 22 yards or so out, very tight angle on the right hand touchline, which Koufal is standing over, but Jarrod Bowen has now moved off the pitch to the sidelines and seems to be almost unlacing his boots. He definitely does not look comfortable.
I can't tell whether he's uncomfortable or he's lining up to take the free kick as yet.
It looks like Koufal is going to take it, swings it into the box. Antonio went up for it, but it's headed clear. Benrahma picks it up. Now Bowen does cross it in from the right. Byrne heads it clear, back with Bowen, who seems to be running freely now as he has the ball just on the byline. Crosses it over though, but it goes over everybody, and Benrahma sets on his way chasing it. Rice picks it up, and West Ham are 18 yards or so out here, deep in Newcastle's half. It on the left, Cross in, header, wide. That was from Declan Rice, and decent play in the early stages, again rather, my apologies, in the early stages here from West Ham. Well,
he's fooled us all there, Jared Bowen, because when West Ham are in possession, he looks very comfortable and free-flowing. As soon as they're out of possession, he starts limping again. And I think he actually fooled Willock there in the Newcastle defence, because he was limping around. He all of a sudden picked up possession, burst into a sprint, made a great 1-2 and flashed the ball across the box with his right foot. West Ham's best opportunity for the second half.
Just finished the lineup for you for West Ham. Went through their defence and that change for them at the start of the second half. Johnson on for Kerrer. So Soufal, Paquetá, scorer of their goal. Rice and Emerson in midfield with Benrahma and Bowen alongside Antonio up front. And we did think that Bowen would have to go off. He is still running a little bit gingerly, but seems to be all right when West Ham are going forward. And he is trying to get forward now. Comes up for a challenge with Botman, and it goes out for a throw-in on this near side touchline.
It's one of them injuries where he's okay when his team's got possession. It's just when he's out of possession.
Soufal takes this throw in midway through Newcastle's half, and Paquetá sends it back to Ogbonna. BBC 5 Sports Extra and BBC Sounds bringing you the action here for St James's Park. 1-1 between Newcastle and West Ham with 6 minutes gone of this second half here. West Ham and Rice with possession on the halfway line. Certainly a brighter start from West Ham in this second half. Very promising early stages for them. There was a long run there forward for West Ham, and Soufal, I think, that was brought down. Is going to be a free kick in a decent area, this, and potentially another good set piece opportunity this for West Ham.
Yeah, they've got a free kick in a dangerous area. We saw them exploit Newcastle's weaknesses at defending set plays that we haven't seen of late from Newcastle, whether it be from a free kick or a corner. West Ham had a couple of opportunities in the first half, and they've got another free kick here in a dangerous position. In possession, West Ham have looked a lot better since they conceded that goal. They've grown into the game. They seem to have control of the ball now for a lot longer periods, and Newcastle are worried about them on the break.
So this is probably, 30 yards or so out. Pretty central again, couple of yards inside the edge of the left-hand edge of the 18-yard box as West Ham attack the Gallowgate end in the second half. And Paquetá, goal scorer, and Emerson both standing over this. Johnson, the only player not forward for West Ham for this set-piece opportunity, is Emerson, who takes it, looping into the box, headed again by Byrne, clear, but picked up by Soufal, and another header out from Byrne. Newcastle looking a little bit nervy in the early stages of the second half. That defence certainly not quite clicking as we've seen it do so well for Newcastle over the last 12 games or so. And an elaborate clearance there from Dan Byrne. Johnson picks it up, and West Ham, this is much more measured and controlled West Ham that we've seen in the early stages of the second half so far, Paul Robinson.
Yeah, there was no apologies or disguise on what Newcastle were trying to do there through Dan Byrne. It was clearly clear the lines and get out the box down the field. West Ham had a lot more concentrated possession at the start of this second half.
Former Premier League and England goalkeeper alongside me here at St James's Park. Bowen in a physical challenge there with Alan Saint-Maximin, judged to have given away the free kick, judged to have brought down Saint-Maximin, who's wipes his nose and then is pulled to his feet by his teammate Dan Byrne. Bowen seems pretty upset there and confused really about why he's been penalised for that challenge.
I think he's a little bit unlucky there. You can see what he's done. In rugby they call it a handoff. He's just trying to get his balance there. He's put himself in a position where he can try and turn on the ball. He's put his arms out for balance, and just at the wrong time Saint-Maximin's run into his hand. It was a quite clear handoff and wouldn't be given in any rugby league game.
And you can hear the fans here at St James's Park trying to really energise their team a little bit. It has been a flat start in the opening 9 minutes of the second half really for Newcastle. West Ham certainly have grappled the momentum back really, and the home fans trying to urge their side on, and maybe this is going to be the chance for them. Almiron on the right, feeds in Trippier across from the right, and that was Wilson trying to get on the end of it. So Maximin tries the shot, it's blocked at a tight angle on the left by Fabianski, and goes out for a throw-in on this near-hand touchline.
Good save by Fabianski. The ball just loops to the back post of Saint-Maximin. Newcastle's first real pressure in the second half. Kieran Trippier in acres of space down the right hand side, lifts it to the far post. West Ham don't deal with it. It breaks to Saint-Maximin, who fires it in at Fabianski's near post, manages to get 2 feet on it. It's a decent save. Actually, it's Kufal in front of Fabianski who makes the block.
So a good opportunity that for Newcastle, and play's been paused again here as the referee stops play again. Joel Linton unhappy with the referee's decision. throwing the ball back, and this is going to be a free kick for West Ham, which Fabianski is going to take. David Moyes clearly saying the right things to his team in the break, Paul, because they have definitely started this second half much better than they started the match.
He will have been disappointed with the half-time whistle, because West Ham were really starting to come into this game, dominate the game. He won't have wanted that West Ham to have the half-time break that they had, but give him credit, he sent them out in exactly the same frame of mind. They've had good possession, they've pressed high, and they've started off this half how they finished the last.
10 minutes into the second half here at St James's Park, 1-1 between Newcastle and West Ham here on 5 Sports Extra. Remember, you can listen to the Calcutta Cup, the opening weekend of the Six Nations, over on 5 Live Sport, and then coverage of this match here will follow after the conclusion of that match. Newcastle with the ball in their own half. Byrne is trying to feed in Joe Linton, but that midfield for Newcastle is getting overrun at the moment, and Bowen has the ball now on the right hand side. Tight angle, gets the cross in for West Ham. Players jump at the left hand corner of the 6-yard box. That was Ben Rama, and the ball is cleared, but West Ham pick up possession again, and this is a really good spell for David Moyes' team. Johnson now to Soufal on this right. Bowen's looking energised. There was that moment where we thought he was going to have to be substituted a couple of minutes ago, and he's now looking full of energy again. 3 goals in 2 games in the colours of West Ham for Jarrod Bowen at the moment.
Well, that was brilliant by Antonio. It just set the tone for what West Ham have been about this second half. Closing down, dropping into midfield. Joe Linton thought he had comfortable possession. Antonio just comes on the blind side of him and takes the ball off him. And West Ham have been the epitome of that in the second half. They've pressed high, they've had good possession, but saying that, now they're getting hit on the counter-attack.
Trippier feeding in on the right as Newcastle try to go on the counter. Almiron's now going to try and take this throw-in quickly. It's on the far side for Newcastle, and he feeds it back to Joe Linton in the centre of the park. 1-1 between Newcastle and West Ham. Almiron with the ball on the far side, trying to feed it in. Joe Linton now, and Joe Linton goes down in the box, shouts for a penalty, but I don't think the referee is going to be interested in that one.
That was a clear dive, and there's a melee of players, a real gathering of players coming in. Joe Linton's laughing. There's no real cause for a penalty at all. It was a blatant dive, and Joe Linton, rightly so, booked.
And Joe Linton has been booked indeed for that. Thank you, Mark. Welcome along to St James's Park, our listeners on 5 Live Sport. 1-1 between Newcastle United and West Ham here. It's been a really, really entertaining game. Newcastle with the ball in the back of the net in the opening seconds through Joe Willock, but Miguel Almiron in the build-up as he crossed the ball at a tight angle on the right. The ball was over the byline, so VAR ruling out that goal. But 2 minutes later, Callum Wilson with a brilliant finish as the ball was drilled through the middle of the West Ham defence for him to finish to make it 1-0 to Newcastle, and they were well on top in the early stages, but West Ham have worked their way back into this game, and a really, really well worked set piece opportunity for them. Paqueta drawing them level 32 minutes into this match as the corner was drilled in from the left from their captain Declan Rice. Former England and Premier League goalkeeper Paul Robinson's watching this game alongside me here at St James's Park. As we say, Newcastle with all the momentum in the early stages, Paul, but West Ham and David Moyes will be delighted with the way his team have wrestled back momentum in this game.
For the first 10 or 15 minutes, Newcastle were excellent. They had the goal disallowed, like you say, they got their goal, and it looked like it was going to be a long afternoon for West Ham, but give David Moyes' team a lot of credit. Since they went 1-0 down about 15 minutes into this game, they've been the better team. They've dominated the midfield, they've got more bodies in midfield. Soufal and Emerson in the wide areas have caused Newcastle all kinds of problems in behind Willock and Joe Linton, and West Ham have ended the first half the better team, and in the second half they've come out and done exactly the same. They've dominated possession, caused Newcastle problems. Declan Rice and Paqueta in the centre of midfield for West Ham. They've been excellent today.
Yeah, half-time almost coming at the wrong moment for West Ham, because they really were on the ascendancy as we came to the end of the first half here. Reminder, of course, there's no Bruno Guimaraes for Newcastle today after that red card he picked up here on Tuesday in the League Cup win over Southampton. So Joe Linton moving into a more midfield role for them, and at the moment that is not working. West Ham well on top, but not ahead in this match at the moment, but can they get ahead in terms of making this momentum count for them? For them, they've made one change in this match so far, one substitution at the start of the second half. Kerrer, who was the one change for them from their last league win over Everton, he of course had replaced the injured Kurt Zouma. Well, he's gone off at 45 minutes played, and Ben Johnson has come on instead, and we believe that was probably an enforced change, Paul, because as we were saying, I'm sure there was nothing that David Moyes really wanted to change about his West Ham team as they came up to half-time.
He might have changed the first 5 minutes, he might have wanted to start the game again, but certainly not personnel. They were excellent from that point onwards.
Willock feeding the ball out now to Sir Maximin on the left, tries to cross it in to Callum Wilson. It's headed clear by West Ham, and Joe Linton goes down again. He's just been booked for diving, Joe Linton, a couple of minutes ago. He's gone down again very easily in a similar area in the West Ham box, and now there is a foul on a West Ham player. Trippier judged to have fouled the West Ham player on the far side, but Joe Linton's gone down twice in a matter of minutes very easily in the Newcastle box. What did you make of this particular incident, Paul?
It's Joe Linton and Aguirre again. And only moments earlier was Joe Linton booked for a blatant dive, so you can understand why the referee hasn't been forthcoming in giving this one. He just wins the ball on the back of Emerson. It's Emerson actually, it's not Aguirre, and it's just a coming together. There's nothing to that. VAR won't look at that, there'll be no intervention, but once again Joe Linton going down very, very easily.
16 minutes played of this second half then on BBC Radio 5 Live and BBC Sounds. 1-1 here as Fabianski takes the free kick for West Ham. They're shooting from left to right as we watch here in this second half, so towards the Gallowgate end and towards that famous stand in the second half as Newcastle regain possession in the centre of the park, and now they feed it out to Sir Maximin, who's on one of those mazy runs forward, feeds it now to the D, and Almiron trying to get the shot away. Now it's with Willock. He's so many West Ham bodies in front blocking him, so he has to send it all the way out right to Trippier, who crosses it in, and there's a coming together there was the Newcastle players were challenging Fabianski for the ball. The Newcastle fans think that that was a physical battle, a bit too physical, and it's that Joe Willock that's gone down there clutching his right knee.
It looks like a coming together between Callum Wilson and Joe Willock. It looks like they've got in each other's way at the far post there. But Newcastle just slowly coming into this second half. St Maximin's been really quiet. He's been given his first opportunity to start the game today. The first half he's really poor, ran down a few dead ends, did very, very little on that left-hand side. Most of Newcastle's positive play in the first half came down this right-hand side with Trippier and Almiron. St Maximin's found it a little bit difficult to get into the game. I'm just wondering how long it is before we're going to see Anthony Gordon or a change made, because St Maximin has struggled to get into this game. But from a West Ham point of view, sorry Maz, they've been excellent in the midfield. They've really bossed that midfield area. They've exploited the spaces. They've played with 3 at the back, allowing them to have 4 midfielders, which is 1 more than Newcastle, and they've really dominated that area as the game's gone on.
Yeah, Anthony Gordon, the £14 million man Newcastle signing in the January transfer window, is the man that graces the front of the matchday programme today, so I expect we will see him at some point as Longstaff now, or the run forward, tries to feed in Willock, and West Ham winning all the challenges at the moment, and can hear the home fans starting to get a bit frustrated and a bit anxious here. Their energy in the opening minutes of this match was so amazing, the atmosphere, obviously it's a great time at the moment to be a Newcastle United fan, but in this match at the moment they're not quite having it all their own way. And I think what this midfield shows, obviously John Joe Shelby going to Nottingham Forest in the last couple of days of the transfer window, Paul, you know, Eddie Howe saying that it wasn't an ideal transfer window for this football club, and you can see that beyond the first 11 there are a little bit of issues for them, because that midfield for them is just not clicking at all now in this game.
Well, they've missed Guimaraes hugely. I mean, they've played without him 3 times this year, and they haven't this season, they haven't won without him. They've drawn 2 and lost 1, and it's been a real highlight of the fact today that he is missing. They have struggled in that midfield area at times. Rice and Paqueta have overpowered this Newcastle midfield, but you know, it's been a great game, hasn't it? From a neutral point of view, we built this game up beforehand saying that Newcastle hadn't scored, you know, they only scored 1 in 4 games, and we were potentially looking at 0-0, but it's been 2 teams that have really been going hammer and tong to try and win this game.
And Newcastle have regained possession after West Ham were trying to go on the attack. Willock now on to Sir Maximin in the left. He goes more centrally, and a poor pass there is blocked clear by West Ham, and Dan Burn's going to take the throw in midway through the West Ham half. Now it's with Longstaff. Trippier on the far side, raising his arm, he wants it. There's been really good link-up play in the early stages of this match, in particular between Trippier and Almiron down that right-hand side, but at the moment it is not clicking for them, and West Ham really looking on top. with 18 minutes played in the second half here at St James's Park. All of the outfield players back for West Ham defending, and that's a really poor bit of work there for Newcastle. A sign, I think, of how frustrated they are in the second half.
Yeah, first half West Ham were out of possession. They were getting very deep because early on they conceded a goal with Callum Wilson through one-on-one. They were getting in trouble with a long straight pass, and they were afraid of Callum Wilson's pace. They were dropping very, very deep with a back five with four in front, and they were causing themselves a lot of problems, whereas in this second half they're now pushing higher up, they're winning possession higher up the field, and Newcastle are finding it difficult to break them down.
You can watch the two goals. The first goal, really sweetly taken strike by Callum Wilson, and a clever set piece from West Ham to make it 1-1 through Paqueta. Match of the day, BBC One, 10:30 tonight. Newcastle regain possession now. Almiron making the run on the right. Battle there with him and Johnson. Aguerd there on the far side as well, and it will go out for a throw-in on the far side, and that will be a West Ham throw-in.
It's going to be interesting in this game to see which manager moves first. You know, what their in-game management's like. We know that they've both got quality on the bench. West Ham, they've now got Fornals, Lanzini, they've got Danny Ings there, Souček, who hasn't been playing well. You know, on a Newcastle point of view, they've got Murphy, they've got Fraser, they've got Anthony Gordon, we know. And it'll be interesting to see as to which manager flinches first, because this game is very evenly balanced at the moment.
Antonio now with the ball, feeding it forward now for West Ham. Newcastle think that was offside, but play continues. Ben Rama crosses it forward. Soufal in the box. Header goes a bit wayward. Now Paqueta, the goal scorer for West Ham, with the ball at his feet. He's in a battle there with St Maximin, who wins back possession. The home fans like that one. Almiron now out to Willock. Listen to this St James's Park crowd. They really want to cheer this team forward. They need to show something, Newcastle, for their fans in the second half. They have yet to do that really going forward. Almiron now. That was for Wilson as he tried to feed it in at the edge of the D. It's blocked, but it's back with Newcastle on the halfway line, and they're being urged on by this vocal St James's Park crowd here.
That was brilliant by St Maximin. Key to his game, their defensive capabilities. He's not renowned for his defensive ability, but he worked back so hard there, won the ball back for his team deep in their own half, but making his way forward. I just wonder if his race is run. He's looking very tired, very jaded. We know he's not started many games this year, and it's looking like that his race is run.
Yeah, he's really breathing heavily, Alan St Maximin. This is his first start in the Premier League since August, so he really hasn't played an awful lot of games or started a lot of games for Eddie Howe, and it might be a moment that he's going to switch things up. Looks like certainly like there's some activity going on in the Newcastle dugout, and we can see there that Anthony Gordon is going to be coming on now. He's getting his instructions from Jason Tyndall. I imagine it will be Alan St Maximin he will probably replace, Paul.
Yeah, I can't say it won't be Almiron, because Almiron's been in good in fits and starts. He's not been as good as he has been the whole season, but certainly out of the two you would take St Maximin off.
Long ball over the top, fed in. Newcastle lose out possession though. Longstaff with a heavy touch, and Declan Rice, who has been brilliant for West Ham, regaining possession and feeding in Antonio. He has really led from the front, Declan Rice. When they went behind in the early stages, Paul, Declan Rice was the player who said to everybody, calm down. It's a goal that we conceded early on, but we can get back into this.
You could see visibly his leadership qualities. He was talking to his teammates, telling everybody to calm down, let's regroup, let's reset and get together. That's done, that's happened, there's nothing we can do. His leadership qualities, both vocally and in his performance, have been there today. He's covered so much ground as well. Him and Paqueta have been outstanding.
Halfway through this second half here at St James's Park, still 1-1, but Newcastle really not showing the energy, the pace, the intent that we saw certainly on their run to the League Cup final in the early stages here, when they took the lead quite spectacularly in the early stages. Almiron though now in a central position, Dan Burn up there as well. St Maximin now on the left, run into the box. He is trying to get the shot in, but Soufal wins back possession, and Bowen now is going to take this forward for West Ham, but it's blocked again by Botman.
Really
and
good tackle.
Is going to be the change for Newcastle, Paul. And it is indeed, as we expected. Alan St Maximin is replaced by Anthony Gordon. Signed from Everton for £40 million in the January transfer window. Anthony Gordon going to make his Newcastle debut here.
He's got a lot to live up to with the transfer fee. We know there was talk of him going to Chelsea last season, and a huge transfer fee for him. I think he's underachieved at Everton this season. They've cashed in, they've sold a player because of the financial fair play. But you look at what Eddie Howe's done here. You look at what he's not just with his recruitment, but he's made players better. You look at the likes of Joe Linton, you look at Almiron, you look at Callum Wilson even under his leadership. He's not just built a team, but he's made players better who are already here. And you think in Anthony Gordon's somebody that he will obviously admire from a distance, somebody who sees a lot of potential in, and somebody that he wants to and thinks he can work with and get the best out of.
Yeah, that was that video that Newcastle's social media team posted over the last week of Howe meeting Anthony Gordon for the first time, saying how much he was looking forward to working with him. So certainly has shown already that he can really make the difference and improve a lot of these Newcastle players. And Anthony Gordon on the field now, he's making a run forward, but West Ham with possession, and Fabianski with the kick out. It's headed back by Newcastle. It's been a scrappy and bitter performance really from Newcastle to give away the free kick in the centre circle there, and Joe Linton, really frustrated figure. He's got to be a bit careful, Joe Linton. He's certainly having some conversations with the referee, and he is on a yellow, as we say.
I think it's good game management from West Ham. Yeah, the game's been scrappy at time. When West Ham have had possession and they've lost possession, there's been little fouls. It's been a little bit stop-start. Newcastle haven't really got a rhythm like we've seen them get going this year. Almiron's been very quiet this second half, as has Joe Linton. They really are frustrated, but you've got to give West Ham credit for that, because that's their doing.
And Antonio now with the ball on the far side, but he was in an offside position, and that will be a free kick for Newcastle. So with about 20 minutes to go in this second half here at St James's Park, it looks like David Moyes is going to be making a couple of changes, as well as that Lanzini that's coming on. And I can't see the back of the head of who the other player is, but David Moyes. I think it's Souček.
It looks like he's reacting to what Eddie Howe's done. Eddie Howe's made a change, and it looks like that David Moyes is going to do the same.
As we say, Danny Ings on the bench for West Ham, but David Moyes opting not to bring him on at the moment. Almiron now on the ball. He switched to the left in the second half, and Anthony Gordon now with his first couple of touches of the ball. Nice touches as well to feed in Longstaff, and Callum Wilson's making the run and wants the ball. Trippier tried to get the cross in from the right, and listen to that reaction from St James's Park. That's what they want to see from their Newcastle team in the second half.
Yeah, it was good there by Anthony Gordon. His first touch into the middle there. Ball worked out wide to Trippier. Just couldn't get the ball across, went out for a corner, but better from Newcastle. It's the first little bit of possession that they've had.
And interesting that Almiron has switched to the left as well. We'll maybe touch on that more in a moment. Here in Trippier is going to take this corner for Newcastle from the right as they attack from right to left as we watch in the second half. He takes the corner, it's fed into the 6-yard box, it's headed up there. That's Botman, one of the players going up, but Newcastle get it, West Ham rather get it clear. Only so far though as Longstaff, and Gordon now urged to shoot, fed in, edge of the 18-yard box by his teammate, but then it's blocked clear by West Ham, and the danger is averted again for David Moyes' side. Just about.
Plays a good 1-2 there on the edge of the box for Joe Linton. Bit of urgency into this Newcastle side since Gordon's come on. Great 1-2, just overruns it. Anthony Gordon wasn't able to get his shot in.
He's certainly made a good start, hasn't he, to life in a Newcastle shirt with those opening touches.
Yeah, he's playing on this left-hand side here, just down in front of us, with Almiron playing over here for a little time as well. But Almiron seems to have gone back over to the right, and Gordon's occupying this left-hand side. But Eddie Howe seems to be asking him to track back in a more defensive role as well.
Almiron involved with another physical battle there with Paqueta. Newcastle man on a yellow card, but Newcastle are working their way back into this game more in the last few minutes. 28 minutes played in this second half here at St James's Park on BBC Radio 5 Live and BBC Sound. Still 1-1, but Newcastle hoping to cut the gap again to Manchester United after United's win earlier over Crystal Palace. And as we were saying before we joined you on 5 Live Sport, what could be a very valuable point for West Ham at the bottom of the table if things were to stay as they are. So a couple more West Ham changes coming on now, and it looks like it's going to be the goal scorer, one of those going off, Paul.
Yeah, he's bringing Fornals and Souček on. Paqueta's done excellently well in the middle of that midfield with Declan Rice today.
and Saeed Benrahma, the other West Ham player, being replaced. So Saeed Benrahma and the goal scorer Lucas Paqueta going off, Lanzini and Souček, Fornals rather, coming on. So 3 substitutions now for David Moyes in the second half and West Ham, and you think that's a direct response to the changes that Eddie Howe made?
I think he's just freshening it up, as I do. I think his systems work for him today, playing with a back 3 and the 4 in midfield. Paqueta's done excellently well there alongside Declan Rice. Like I said, that'll be a like-for-like swap with him and Souček. Fornals will be a straight swap for Benrahma, just freshening it up, giving that side a little bit more energy as we go into the closing stages.
Yeah, 15 minutes still to play then in the second half. Nothing to separate the sides at the moment. Longstaff in possession at the moment, just in the centre of the park for Newcastle. Trippier now out on the right, leading from the front as he has throughout really his time at Newcastle. Kieran Trippier tonight.
They're getting deeper and deeper, West Ham. That's the worrying thing for David Moyes. Newcastle haven't been in this game in the second half, but now the last 5 minutes they're having more and more possession. And as we talk now, everyone's camped inside the West Ham half. Out of possession, West Ham seem to be sitting deeper and deeper and are struggling to get high up the pitch.
There was an interesting moment as well where Jarrod Bowen, we thought, was going to have to go off in the early stage of the second half. He was really limping and down on his haunches, but he seems to have recovered really well as he tried to make a run forward there with West Ham, and Declan Rice with possession on the far side in the Newcastle half, and Fornals, one of his first touches of the ball, as it's Emerson now on the left. West Ham lose possession though, and Almiron's going again forward. He's worked so hard today. Now he feeds in his new teammate Gordon, and that's a lovely ball for Callum Wilson as he runs forward at pace. Brilliant tackle though there to bring him down, and that was some really good defensive work there from... That was Agurd, wasn't it?
What a fantastic tackle that is by Agurd. That's just saved his team a certain goal against. Callum Wilson finds himself through once again, one-on-one. Almiron does brilliantly well, and Anthony Gordon's been given licence to roam in field. Anthony Gordon comes in off this left-hand side. Almiron finds him in the centre circle. He opens himself up, and he quickly releases Callum Wilson, who's in behind Agurd, one-on-one. Agurd manages to make up the ground on him, slide in and make a tackle just before he manages to pull the trigger. Absolutely goal-saving, fantastic tackle by Agurd.
He had to time that perfectly, didn't he? Had to time that perfectly again.
Had no option. It was a brilliantly timed challenge.
And it is a corner for Newcastle, which they take short out as Longstaff tried a shot from distance there that was deflected off a West Ham player. Will go up for a throw-in on the far side, but a really lovely ball from Anthony Gordon as well there to set up Callum Wilson on his way.
When you look at it, he's been the difference. You know, we talk about Newcastle's changing intent in the last 10 minutes, but it's no coincidence that it's since Anthony Gordon's come on. He's had a real forward impression on this team. He's been given a licence to drift inside, and every touch that he's had so far has been positive.
Nice little 1-2 there with Newcastle's new man, with Joe Willock and Longstaff again, and Newcastle enjoying a much brighter spell as Trippier made the run forward on the right to try and gun the end of a long ball from Longstaff. It does go out of play though. That will be a West Ham goal kick, but there we go, see Almiron run and place the ball for Fabianski on the edge of his 6-yard box, because Newcastle now realising that momentum is with them.
Yeah, they're just getting a sense that they can maybe go on and win this game, but from a West Ham point of view, it's a really difficult time in the game, because if you go open up and try and win this game, a point away from home at Newcastle for West Ham would be an absolutely excellent result for them, but at the same time they don't want to go over and try and win this game at the risk of losing it. So it's a fine balance between them, and I think, you know, Antonio's done a great job leading the line, but we're just seeing on our monitor that Danny Ings is getting stripped, so that's going to be a positive change for David Moyes.
Yeah, Danny Ings obviously getting injured in his first game for West Ham, back on the bench today for West Ham. Looks like he's going to be coming on for the last 12 minutes or so of this game. There's still nothing to separate the sides here on BBC Radio 5 Live as they're trying that long ball forward again. Newcastle down the right, and West Ham picking up possession again, and Souček sends it forward, and that's a little bit wayward from the West Ham midfield of that.
Yeah, the game's getting stretched. Neither team are getting the back 3 or back 4 up the field and condensing the midfield. The game's quite open at the moment. I mean, West Ham are running the risk of getting deeper and deeper. I think with Danny Ings coming on, it will just give them those fresh legs over the top and just give them that out ball, if you like, so they don't get too deep going into the final 10 minutes of this game.
When you think that West Ham have just made the 2 signings in the transfer window, Paul, do you think, plenty of West Ham fans as Anthony Gordon looking dangerous again going forward, the crowd all excited every time he gets the ball, and he's now fed it to Joe Linton. Now it's with Byrne again on the left. Soufal tries to close him down, Longstaff as well, and Newcastle sensing the momentum with them here as they try to move ahead again in this match after being pegged back by that really well worked set piece and finish from Paqueta. Only the 2 signings for them in the transfer window, West Ham, including Danny Ings. Have they done enough business, do you think, to be able to stay up? Based on this performance this afternoon, you'd say they have done. As the cross comes in from the right from Newcastle, it's cleared again by West Ham, and Antonio's now off on the counter in a foot race there with Botman. It goes down under the challenge, and that will be a Newcastle free kick. When you look at how West Ham have played this afternoon, you think they have got enough to stay up?
I said in the first half when we were on earlier, I said you look at the West Ham performances of late, results haven't been ideal, but they had a 2-2 draw where I saw them at Leeds, and I thought the performance wasn't a performance of a team that were relegation threatened or one that the manager had lost the dressing room, if you like. They had a fantastic win away at Brentford in the FA Cup. They won a huge game at home against Everton, and then put in a professional performance against Derby in the FA Cup to get them through. So I think the manager has got the team on side. He's got players coming back from injury, and you look at the strength of his bench today. If he can get these players playing to the top level, because there's players in his team that have underperformed this year, Souček and Fornals, who we've just seen come on. I think West Ham have momentum at the moment. If they can continue that, they will be okay.
And both sides, in fact, making a change. The one we expected for West Ham as Miguel Almiron goes off for Newcastle. He's going to be replaced by Jacob Murphy, and the home fans here recognising the effort that Almiron has put in this afternoon in the colours of Newcastle. But Danny Ings, as we expected, has come on. He has replaced Mikel Antonio, who scored for the first time in 2.5 months on Monday, Paul, and certainly looked like he built some confidence in this game in the 80 minutes that he played in a West Ham shirt this evening.
Yeah, he certainly did, and that's like the rest of this West Ham side. We're just touching on there about the performances. They didn't, if you're looking at a team in the bottom 3 and the bottom 6, if you like, that fighting relegation, a team that's devoid of confidence, they go 1-0 down in the first 5 minutes. They could quite easily crumble. West Ham didn't. They've put in a real good performance since that point.
Free kick for Trippier, taken quickly, header straight at Fabianski. I think that was Byrne.
He's got to score.
Who had the header there?
He's got to score. I think it's Callum Wilson. It's a free kick halfway in the West Ham half. Kieran Trippier simply lifts it into the West Ham box. Callum Wilson 7 yards out with a free header, hits it straight at Fabianski, either side of the goalkeeper. That old saying, he scores. Callum Wilson has to do better there. He has to give his team the win with that header. Given
how well he took his shot on in the first half as well, I'm surprised that he didn't do better with that effort.
He's in acres of space. There's nobody around him. Really poor defending from West Ham from such a simple direct free kick halfway inside the half, just floated into the box.
Wicked free kick from Kieran Trippier, and the ball's gone out on the byline, and West Ham were trying to claim it was a goal kick. It will be a corner though from the right as Newcastle attack in the second half, and Trippier's going to take this. He's just whipped in an absolutely lethal dead ball situation, set piece opportunity a couple of seconds ago for Callum Wilson. Can we see something similar from this corner that he's going to take now?
I still can't believe Callum Wilson missed that, man.
He brings the corner in, headers go up, shot goes in from Anthony Gordon, blocked. He took that on at the edge of the D, but it was always going to be blocked. There's so many West Ham bodies back defending that set piece opportunity. It has deflected though for another corner. Again, Trippier raises his right hand. Again, Anthony Gordon lurking in that D area. Corner comes in again from the right, header over the top, and that was another opportunity gone for Newcastle.
That's a great block by Jarrod Bowen. The ball just breaks out the box and it falls kindly to Anthony Gordon. On the half volley, he puts a side foot on it rather than striking with the laces, and it looks to be going towards Fabianski's bottom left hand corner. Jarrod Bowen puts his body on the line and puts a great block in there for West Ham. Fabianski now just taking his time. I think we've got to the point in the game now where West Ham would quite happily take a point here. A point here in a performance like they've got would be an excellent result for them. Newcastle will go on and try and win this game.
38 minutes of the second half played, so we really are into the final stages here now. 84 minutes gone in this game. This would be a cruel moment if West Ham were to get nothing out of this game now, and we talked again about this earlier, but it's so important they do get something from this game, Paul, because up next for them they've got Chelsea, then Tottenham and Nottingham Forest. So the next 2 games in particular, big derbies, really tough matches. It's so important that they try and get something from this game.
They've got a really difficult run ahead them, and they've also got to continue the momentum. They're coming off that fantastic Premier League victory against Everton, beating Derby in the FA Cup. They've got to continue momentum, and a point here would be an excellent result from in doing that. They've got a really difficult run ahead, like you said, and especially with the results how they've gone today, with Everton winning, with Leicester winning, with Wolves winning. All of a sudden everything down the bottom comes very condensed. If they can take a performance and any kind of result or point home from here today, David Moyes will be delighted.
And they have a corner here, their first corner for a while. Obviously it's a corner from the left, and Declan Rice is going to take this, and this is a corner situation from the same side as when they scored their goal in the first half, West Ham. So every Newcastle player back defending this. Rice takes the corner from the left. It is headed clear by Byrne. Bowen brings it back in though into the 6-yard box, and the subsequent effort goes wide of the left-hand post. But Declan Rice in no hurry to take that corner, just as you say, Paul. I think West Ham now very, very happy with a point if that were to be the case today.
Well, we're coming up to the last 5 minutes, and they've put in an excellent performance today. So now for them it's to close the game out. They've got to have some very good game management between now and the end of the game. Be very sensible defensively what they do. Don't give Newcastle opportunities, and if they do get a chance to go down the other end of the pitch like they did just then with a set play or a corner, maybe take the opportunity of getting a sneaky away win.
606 follows us here on BBC Radio 5 Live. I'm sure the lines are open for you if you want to call. 0808 5909 693. Plenty of West Ham fans perhaps really, really happy with a point if they can get it here. This place has been so impressive. The form of Newcastle has been so impressive here over this season, but a rare lapse at the back for the Newcastle defence from a West Ham corner in the first half. It is Newcastle there on the attack though. All of West Ham's outfield players back defending their 18-yard box. They haven't got the ball clear yet though, and Newcastle are right all there, camped out trying to get this ball in. Cross though from the right, too close to Fabianski, and he gratefully takes that ball, lies on the turf, and he's going to be in absolutely no hurry to feed this out.
From a West Ham point of view, they've got to get higher up the field there. Every single player on the pitch there, apart from Nick Pope, was in the final 25 yards of the field, putting pressure on this West Ham team. They really are looking to try and close this game out and get away from here with a point at the moment. They've
got 4 minutes plus stoppage time to hold on. West Ham still 1-1. A point here at St James's Park, given the form that Newcastle have been in this season, given what they did on Tuesday night, reaching their first cup final in 24 years, and all the noise and all the atmosphere and everything that this place brings, and that relationship with the fans now making it so difficult to come here and get anything.
And the way this game started for them as well, Maz, let's not forget, in the first 5 minutes, you know, Newcastle had a goal disallowed, then they went 1-0 up, and they could have been 2 or 3 up in the first 15 minutes. So to show the character and performance that they've put in for David Moyes since then, they deserve a lot of credit, West Ham.
Yeah, and David Moyes will be really happy with the way they've battled their way back into this game. And Newcastle do have possession in the last 3 minutes of this match. Long ball over the top there for Callum Wilson. It will go all the way out though for a West Ham goal kick. But West Ham are playing very cleverly in the last few minutes here. Newcastle with lots of possession, but West Ham very happy to see them play it around the central area, which they have been doing. And again, Fabianski will be in absolutely no hurry to take this goal kick as we enter the last 2 minutes plus stoppage time of this match.
And you can see Declan Rice communicating to his team, look, telling his defenders what they need to do, get them up the pitch, keep everybody organised. And he was like that from the first 2 minutes when they conceded. He's been a real leader today, Declan Rice, both vocally and performance-wise.
Hasn't he? He's been the difference really in terms of dragging them back into this game almost single-handedly at times in the first half.
He really has, and the ground that he's covered as well, both with and without the ball.
Makes it a very interesting conversation come the next transfer window if Declan Rice will still be in the colours of West Ham come next season.
Well, it's looking more and more unlikely the longer it goes. You know, it's his lack of interest in signing a contract, and you wonder where West Ham do go from there, because they rely so heavily on him. He's such a key, integral part of what they do, and he's proved it again today alongside Paqueta, who's played extremely well. But I think Paqueta's performance is, you know, it's down to having somebody like Declan Rice alongside him.
Still only 24 years old, a performance today that shows maturity really beyond his years. Honestly, he's been absolutely brilliant, Declan Rice. But Newcastle going on the attack again. There's still work for West Ham to do if they're going to get a draw out this game. Anthony Gordon now with the ball on the left, 18 yards or so out, now goes more centrally, urged to shoot by the vocal home crowd. He sends it out though on to the left again, and Dan Burns still up there. Newcastle still time for another effort, another chance. Longstaff now as well. He's been in great touch recently. Newcastle all up in West Ham's half, but it's so congested in that midfield area, and West Ham working so hard to make sure that Newcastle can't create anything clear-cut. Johnson heads it back as Newcastle tried to get forward again, and it's gone all the way back to Kieran Trippier in the centre circle. The home fans still believe they can get the win here, but West Ham is just so concentrated now in the final few minutes.
They're very well drilled, West Ham. This is a routine that they'll have done in training. The old attack versus defence. They've got a bank of 5, a bank of 4, and the outballs Danny Ings. They're committing to every tackle. Johnson just goes in there on Gordon. Newcastle have got a free kick.
Opportunity, yeah. So Johnson bringing down Anthony Gordon, and Soufal's now gone down with cramp, I think, and Dan Burns helping him out with that. Looks like Flynn Downs is going to come on for the last couple of minutes of this match. We're into the 90th minute soon, so we'll have an indicator of how much stoppage time we're going to have at the end of this game, how long West Ham are going to have to hold out. But this is a free kick, 35 yards or so out, which pretty central. Kieran Trippier is going to take it, but again, it's the way he's been fizzing them in. This could be a dangerous moment for West Ham. He loops it in, it's headed up by Byrne, and then West Ham get it clear. Danny Ings back there defending as well. Only back to the halfway line though. Trippier picks it up again. Murphy. 3 minutes of stoppage time at the end of this match then for West Ham to try and hold on. It's going to feel like a very long 3 minutes for these West Ham fans up high in the stand to our left, Paul.
I tell you what, David Moyes will be delighted with 3 minutes, because how many times do we see 4, 5, 6 minutes? Actually, there's not been any stoppages in the second half. There's been a couple of substitutions, so the referees probably bang on. But once again, Newcastle have a really good opportunity here. Halfway inside the West Ham half, over on that right hand side where Kieran Trippier earlier delivered that ball, where Callum Wilson got a free header. West Ham need to be very concentrated here and defend another set place, but West Ham are just about to make another substitution before the set play comes in.
This is almost in exactly the same place where Trippier fizzed it in last time for that chance for Callum Wilson, that header, which far and away has been the best opportunity, I think, of this second half. Still can't quite believe he didn't find the back of the net with it, to be honest.
12, Flynn Downs.
Flynn Downs is coming on now, and it is Soufal who's coming off. He's worked really hard as well today, Soufal, for David Moyes.
Him and Emerson have been excellent. That's the area that West Ham have had most joy. In behind Joe Linton and Willock earlier on in the first half. Just getting in behind that Newcastle midfield, West Ham have exploited that area, and Soufal and Emerson have been brilliant today. They've still to see this free kick out. There's a couple of minutes left, and he goes straight back in, does Downs right into the middle to pick up Dan Burn.
Final couple of minutes of this match here on BBC Radio 5 Live. we're into the second of 3 minutes of stoppage time at the end of this match. Trippier takes the free kick. It's not particularly one of quality. It doesn't really beat the first man, and it's got cleared by West Ham, but again they lose out possession, and Newcastle go again from the centre circle out on the right again. Couple of minutes for West Ham to hold on, and a couple of minutes for Newcastle potentially to find a
late winner. And they are holding on now, aren't they? They really are holding on.
And Bowen there picking up, pouncing on a loose ball from Dan Burn, but some good work there for Burn to regain possession for Newcastle, and they do have time to go again. Anthony Gordon making the run down the left. Joe Linton feeds him in, but the ball is too heavy, and that will be a welcome sight for those West Ham fans up in that stand to our left.
Yeah, really poor touch that by Anthony Gordon. Joe Linton does well, just feeds it into him, almost gets it stuck under his feet, and it goes out for a goal kick. I think we're almost there. Like you say, those West Ham fans right up there at the top of the stand, they'll be delighted with the effort and the performance of their team today. Like we said, it was going to be such a difficult afternoon for them anyway, but then conceding in the manner that they did and the way that they were under pressure for the first 10 minutes. David Moyes' interview after this, he'll be absolutely delighted with the character and performance of his team.
By my watch, we've got about 20 seconds or so to go of the 3 minutes of stoppage time. Fabianski in no hurry at all to take this goal kick. He does so now, and it's high into the centre circle, and then there's a clash of heads there, and the Newcastle player has gone down, and we'll just have a slight pause in play here. That's Longstaff, I think, who's
last opportunity. Newcastle got a free kick 5 yards inside their own half. Every single person in a black and white shirt is going forward. You can be certain it'll be Dan Burn that's the target, and Joe Linton for this.
by my watch. Our 3 minutes is up, so this really is the last chance for Newcastle here, and Trippier's going to take this a yard or so inside Newcastle's own half. It's long, it's high to the edge of the D. Header goes up from Dan Burn, but Newcastle lose out, and it's Declan Rice on the ball, and then Fornals now on this right hand side for West Ham, and Declan Rice is still up there, loops it forward to Jared Bowen, who can't get on the end of it, and then he fouls the Newcastle player as Newcastle then go down, and that is the full-time whistle. So it is ended then. Newcastle 1, West Ham 1. And you would say, Paul Robinson, that is an absolutely huge point for West Ham, given the situation at the bottom of the table and given the results that they knew from the 3 o'clock games ahead of kick-off here at St James's Park.
They were the better team today, Maz. They really were. They went 1-0 down to a Newcastle team who came out the blocks. They started really well. They had a goal disallowed, and straight after that they scored. But since that point, West Ham grew in confidence. They grew in performance. It certainly wasn't the performance of a team that are fighting relegation. Full of characters. Declan Rice was excellent. Paqueta again was excellent today. David Moyes will be absolutely delighted with the character and the performance of his team today. I'm very much looking forward to hearing what he has to say, because I think West Ham were the better team. They deserve to win that.
So West Ham holding out for a point here at St James's Park. It's finished Newcastle 1, West Ham 1.